Hello, everybody. I am Marina Michaelis, and I'm here with Modwain, and we're going to start reading. We're going to go through how to make a social justice warrior. And I'm sorry about earlier. I've had internet connection. I had a bad internet connection, and I got knocked offline. Um, See that would happen. I just had internet's problems. And yeah, the book is How to Make a Social Justice Warrior on Identitarianism, Intersectionality, Mobbing, Race Fail, and naturally.
You are breaking up, Rin.
I am?
Yeah, quite badly actually.
Oh, oh, did you hear me?
I heard most of it.
Oh, yeah, most of it's. Do I sound like a robot?
No, it's you're sounding when I can hear you, you're sounding perfectly fine. But sometimes you cut off.
Oh, but you
And the
did.
robot here, according to John.
Oh, wait, is Sean coming on?
Well, he's on the stream. He's typing along with us.
Oh, I mean, you can't give Sean a Hangout link.
John, you wanna join? Oh, one sec. Well, I'll send him the link anyway. But 1 second.
Mm. Dead air. I guess it would be nice if I just had background music playing for times like these.
Yeah, I am very sorry. Everything is happening at the same time once again. John is eating, so John, I'll send you an link in our Discord thingy if I can get it to open. Now my computer is acting up. It never rains, it pours.
Oh, send him a private link to the Hangout.
Yeah. It's going to be private.
Mm.
It's going to be private. Oh, there you go. No, wait a second. That's the wrong link, John. Sorry, mate.
Maybe I
Second.
should play some background music. I should probably play some background music for this
Yeah,
occasion.
well, the best background music for this is probably something like it's clownesque, but there we go. My wife will probably join as well, and you lift music, elevator music, yes. I I'm sorry, but I don't have your other Twitter account.
Yeah, I don't think me and John are following each other on Twitter.
I don't think John isn't on Twitter either, but I sent the link to my wife on one of her accounts, and she has that one locked out, and she has another one locked in, and she doesn't, and I don't have that one.
Sam?
Yes, Agnieszka, but then you have to send it to me. So send me a private message, and then I have it.
Let me just go look for music. Hold on. There's
Well,
too
no,
much dead air. Too much dead air.
let's just get started. I mean, they can join when they do.
Oh, you're ready to get started?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Can you hear me now? I'm not breaking up, am I?
No, everything seems to be okay.
Okay. I think that this intro's pretty nice. Oh, but let's talk about the author first because we were
We were
talking. You
talking about
said
him.
Marxist.
Yeah, yeah, he's a Marxist as well.
Yeah, I
Must
was thinking that because, like I didn't finish the book, but the parts where I did read, he did mention classism a lot. Like he blames everything on class.
Yep. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
point. Because he basically is, in all fairness, a social justice warrior himself. Just he isn't a social justice warrior like the other social justice warriors.
well, to me, he's more of a leftist than a social justice warrior because when I think social justice warrior, I think people who don't want to have a conversation, people who yell and scream at you and refuse to talk to the other side and, set firecrackers on buildings and whatnot. Like I think of Antifa.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, and
Yeah, for me, I would view him more as a leftist.
yeah, well, he is. Well, he's a Marxist. Can't get more left than that, apparently.
Yeah,
But
because for real, like I didn't even finish the book, but he just mentions classism a lot, and everything is classism. He sees classism absolutely everywhere.
yep. So you kind of know where he's coming from, and this is what I kind of said in our last attempt of a hangout. The thing is, it's almost like the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks. It's almost like, I mean, they're both roughly on the same side of being idiots, but he's just slightly different idiot than they are, and therefore they don't like him. And it's kind of funny because he actually gets threatened by people on the far left, but he also gets threatened by people on the far right, which suggests that he might be a centrist, but he's not really a centrist either. Now, I don't want to threaten him. I think I haven't read much of him, and I haven't read the book Fair is Fair, but what I did read seems to be received well. In a way, it's kind of like it's appreciated and funny. Hi there, John.
Hi, John.
But yeah, it's the left eating the left.
Yeah, I think it's because politics is on a spectrum. Welcome, John. And I think it's a lot like it's kind of like you got the far left and you got people who are not equally as far left, and you work your way to the center and to the center right, and then you gradually move your way over to the far right, and then you get authoritarianism and libertarianism. That's to anarchism because you could be left libertarian or it could be left authoritarian. You could be like rights libertarian, rights authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Sean, did you wanted to say a few words?
Well, I'm apparently a left libertarian.
Yeah, and for me, my political compass put me dead censored. I was surprised by that. Like you would see like my little dots right in the middle of like everything. So that was interesting.
Well, mine is almost in the identical place of Brett Weinstein, because he published his, and you could almost lay our two over each other.
That's interesting. Should I get started?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Nobody thinks clearly, no matter what they pretend. Thinking is a dizzy business, a matter of cracking as many of those foggy glimpses as you can and fitting them together the best you can. That's why people hang on so tight to their beliefs and opinions, because compared to the haphazard way in which they're arrived at, even the goofiest opinion seems wonderfully clear, sane, and self-evident. And if you let it get away from you, then you've got to dive back into that foggy, muddled to wangle yourself out another to take its place. Thoughts so far?
Well, yeah, that's basically using the words of someone else. I mean, I'm not going to comment on him using the words of someone else. I mean, I do that all the time. But I think the he's trying to give here is kind of interesting.
Oh, but you don't care for the quotes he used? I mean, because, I mean, even though it's a quote, it still reflects his true feelings. Like he is using the quotes because it means something to him.
Yeah, I understand, and I can, how do I say this? I can relate to what he feels it means to him, but at the same time, I'd rather respond to him than to the quotes he uses.
Does everybody here feel the same way?
Well, I think he's saying something very simple in a very complicated way. Ideology and its religion is part of this, is a way to make understanding the world much more simple. Unfortunately, it tends to do so by simplifying out reality and replacing it with, God did it, or the patriarchy did it, or the bourgeoisie did it, as opposed to actually it's much more complicated than that. And there's lots of people, and they're not all, it's like, for instance, there was a young leftist on Sargon of Akkad's channel recently in the last few days. And she hung up. She stopped talking to him when he tried to point out that some black people had owned slaves in the United States, which is historically true. It's all gone quiet.
Yeah, because I was waiting till you.
Sorry.
I thought you were going to continue. I'm sorry. But it's did I understand you right that you said she hung up on him?
Yeah, she just said, I don't want to continue talking, when he tried to point out that.
Yeah, okay. I know what you mean. I've had that situations many times, to be honest, when people are pushing certain narrative. They want basically certain story, and then you say, either you say, okay, but black people also have slaves, or you said, okay, but look, when you look at the wage gap, and you say whatever arguments that, if they would be intellectually honest, they would either admit not knowing that, but they would admit it changes the situation, and they would want to think about it, find out more. But they indeed, when they are realizing, okay, then my argument doesn't make sense anymore, if we take that into consideration, even if it is historically true, even if we know it's true, then indeed they stop talking. I had it many times with people, then they either called me names, either just said something like, okay, if this conversation has to go like that I'm not going to talk about it anymore. And I'm like, okay, but it's very recognizable.
Oh, okay. Did everybody had a chance to say what they want to say?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, then I'll continue. I may be the only person who has gotten death threats from racist and anti-racist. Oh, I see what you mean, Modwain. He does talk as if he's a centrist. In the 1960s, when my parents were parts of the civil rights struggle, late night callers promised the Ku Klux Klan would burn down our home. Though the Klan never came, our fire insurance was canceled because the insurer thought the risk was too great. In the 1980s, I wrote a comic book about a white man and a black woman who became lovers in a parallel world where the Confederacy won the Civil War. Though many Southerners praised it, a Texan sent me a letter about the fates of the race traders.
See, the thing is, at one point I understand what he's saying, but at the other point I'm like, okay, the first example to me is far more truthful than the second one. Because let's be honest, you don't have to do much to be called a racist or a race traitor, which is basically the same thing. But
no, it's not. A race traitor is the person a racist hates for not hating people because of race.
Yeah, but so
they're the opposite.
No, they're not the opposite. They're just
the opposite.
John, we're
Do you like black people? Then you're a race traitor, according to a racist. You're
I would agree with
a race
John,
traitor
yeah.
because you're not racist.
Do you like black people as a white person? Yes, then you're a race traitor according to a white person, not according to a racist, because there are black racists out there too. This is what I'm saying. It's just
I wouldn't guarantee it. There are many black racists who seem quite happy to recognise that as racism too.
But the question is not whether people like to recognize it as such. I'm merely saying that if you condemn a person for his view of the ethnicities, then you're a racist. And whether you call the other person a racist or a race traitor doesn't matter. It's the person saying race traitor is the same person saying racist.
I have to disagree with you, dear.
Yeah,
Modwain.
totally.
Because if you're dating outside your race, then the racist would call you a race traitor. But it's kind of a lot like, I mean, I think many people would view Richard Spencer as a racist. Like even
And racist Spencer might be
like, you know, Richard Spencer is a racist. You don't have to be an intersectional feminist to think that way.
Well, I don't think he's a racist. I think he's an idiot, but that's something else. But the whole idea of calling people a racist is a tool to brandish them and basically try to shut them up. And funny enough, to call someone a race traitor is the very same thing. It's a way to brandish them and shut them up.
Well, you mean it's an ad hominem attack? But even though they're both ad hominem attack, I mean, if you are a race traitor, you are seen as betraying your race. Like if a white person marries a black person, they would be viewed as a race traitor to a racist, whereas a person who is advocating for a white ethno-states would be seen as a racist because they want to implement racist policies.
But seriously, though, a white person or a black person, let's be honest, because it's not about ethnicities, even though people kind of like to think it is. If you have a person of X ethnicity and he wants to form an ethno-state with X, then he is a racist.
Yeah.
Now, if the same person blames other people from X ethnicity to date outside of ethnicity X, how is that not racist?
No, that's the opposite of what you said. You said...
No, that's precisely what I said.
You said that it's calling someone a racist and calling someone a race traitor are the same thing, and they're not. They're accusations about opposite behavior.
Yeah, I have to agree with Sean on this one.
It's not based on opposite behavior. I mean, the behavior is the same. It's looking at someone based on ethnicity.
No, it's not. Because
if I call you...
Okay, so you're happy living your life.
Please, let me finish. If I call you a racist, I do so...
Racist here, right? And someone comes along and starts making racial slurs.
Please. I haven't finished. Let me finish, please. If someone calls you a racist based on what they perceive you to do, they call you a racist because of how they feel you are treating different ethnicities.
Or not treating.
Fair enough, but not treating is also treating. There is no such thing as not communicating. There is no such thing as not treating someone. Because even if I ignore you, that is a form of communication, that is a form of treatment. So if I call you a racist based on how you treat people of an other ethnicity, then calling you a race traitor is also based on how you treat people of an other ethnicity.
Okay.
That means that the person saying you're a race traitor in event is a racist. Because
yes, the person calling others a race traitor is a racist, correct?
Yeah, but I would still say that being a racist and a race traitor are polar opposites of each other.
No, they're not. They're just they are morally perceived as opposite, but it's the same thing.
Okay. As I was trying to say, if you live in a multicultural, multi-ethnic environment like I do, and someone starts shouting racial epithets at someone, and you go, "Stop it, you racist," how is that equivalent when you're happy with everyone and anybody? How is that equivalent to the person being racist?
No. What I'm saying, it's not the person being happy with it. It's the person accusing someone being happy with it.
Well, what you mean is it's an ad hominem attack, because an ad hominem attack is when you attack the person instead of the idea.
Yes, and it's an ad hominem attack based on perceived ethnical behavior, which we have to call racism.
Okay, if you don't care about the races of anyone, you are not behaving. You're saying you, by not behaving, is the same as behaving. No, it's not. Not in that sense.
Yeah, because okay, wait, hold on. It's kind of like the differences between me and Millennial Woes. The difference between me and Millennial Woes is that if a black person and a white person were to date each other and have kids with each other, that's fine by me. You know, that to me is great. However, Millennial Woes, he is against that. He finds it disgusting, repulsive. He hated it when Taylor Swift dated a black man. He felt disgusted and grossed out and miserable. He hates when black people and white people mix, and Millennial Woes believes that it ruins the white's gene pool.
Yeah, so he's a racist.
Yeah, but you wouldn't call me a racist, would you?
But the people who are in the interracial relationships are called race traitors, and you're saying they're the same.
No, I'm not saying they're the same. I'm saying it's the same. How do you call it? It's the same action. It's the same. Not so much
because they're not caring about race. They just meet another person.
It's the same action by whomever is saying these things, because they're basing it on ethnical or racial patterns. It's just the other side. It's the other side of the same coin.
No, it's not.
John, I'm not saying that if you intermarry, you are the other side of the same coin. I'm telling you.
That's what you just said all along.
No, what I'm trying to tell you time and again is the guys using things like that, like calling other people race traitors, are the same people that call other people racists.
I'm sorry. I have a feeling, but maybe I'm going to say something very stupid right now, but I have a feeling that you guys misunderstand one thing. What Joe is saying, that as far as I understand, if I call someone a racist, because I will assume, for example, that person is white, he must hate black people, so I call him a racist, and he has to maybe idea, and I don't think about this really, but you must be a racist, then I am a racist for assuming that another person, just because he's white, would be racist, right? That's what you mean?
Well, racists who assume that all white people are racist.
Is that what you mean, Mod?
One moment. The thing is, it's broader than that. But yes, if someone calls you a racist, they make assumptions based on, and whether those assumptions are correct or not, they already are dividing you and basically silencing you based on how they perceive your ethnicity appreciation is.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what I think John meant, and I think Rin, that there are situations that, for example, I see someone who really is saying racist things to someone else, that I actually experienced that firsthand. You know, I don't know, you fucking whatever racial slurs you want to say. And then if I'm saying, hey, shut up, you fucking racist, don't insult other people, then I'm not racist for saying that. I already seen actually that person behaving in a racist way. I actually see that he did actually say something racist, and I think the three of you talks about a little bit different situation. That's my feeling, or I'm completely lost by that. I'm sorry.
You summed up my position perfectly.
Yeah, because like when it comes to me and Sean, it's kind of like we don't see all white people are racist. You know, like black people can be racist too. You know, like Louis Farrakhan, he said black racist. Black people can be racist. Racism is about behavior, not skin color. I don't go, if you're white, then you must be racist. Black people can be racist too. Louis Farrakhan is an anti-Semite, you know.
Yeah.
So if you are behaving in a way that is racist, like a Millennial Rose, then you are a racist because that's your behavior.
That's not what.
But once you call out that someone is a racist because of their behavior, and then someone else says someone is a race traitor because of their behavior, it's still based on ethnicity. So it's the same thing.
No, it's not, because black people can be racist too. You know, like anybody can be racist. Absolutely anybody can be a racist.
Yeah, I know, but then it's the same thing. There are black people being called race traitors as well for marrying white girls.
But those two things are opposite, though.
No, it's the same. It's the same principle. It's the same effect. It's the same. How do you call it? It works exactly the same. And anything, if any measurement is based on, but the ethnicity this or the ethnicity that, it could be the other side of the coin, but it's still the same thing. It's still based on ethnicity.
I don't understand what you just said. You said at the beginning something like, if you call someone out for being a racist, for racist behavior, that's equivalent with another person calling someone race traitor for marrying person of another race. This is sound like that. I'm sorry. I'm not talking about. Okay, say it again, because I'm really lost now. Sorry.
Okay, now let me try this from another point of view then. Let's take a racial stereotype. It doesn't matter which one. Can anyone drop a racial stereotype we can use?
All black people can dance.
And we've lost Rin. I hope she's back. Thank God. I wanted to say I hope she's back within 5 minutes, because then otherwise it'll be gone again.
Hello?
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. But let me try to explain this from a slightly different point of view then. Take any racial stereotype. Yeah? And then my wife said all black people can dance. Okay, let's take that stereotype. Not a negative one, but okay, let's use that one. Does that therefore mean that if you dance, you're black? No, because other people can dance too. Does that therefore mean that dancing is a black thing? No, because etc., etc., etc. So once you say someone is saying something wrong and you stop them because they are being racist, you're basically already dividing. So there is no such thing as anti-racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism. If someone is a racist and you attack them by saying you're not allowed to say this about black people, for example, all black people are thieves, you're not allowed to say this about black people. But wait a second, then you're still missing the argument. Because the question is not whether you're allowed to say it. The question is whether it's true. And to call someone a racist because he says that, yeah, fair enough. But if you respond to it by saying you're not allowed to say this because they're black people, that kind of makes you a racist too.
I got it now.
And this is the same thing.
No, you're not saying you can't say it because they're black people. You're saying you can't say it because it's a moronic generalization based solely on race, and that is not a valid criterion for discussion.
Which all boils down to still talking about you can't say.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Because it doesn't matter who the groups are.
Then the response should be you shouldn't put people in big groups like that.
Yeah, fine. But we have a name for the particular manifestation of this. And so we tend, as words are a form of communication, to use those words as a shorthand.
Yeah, but it's not shorthand, though. That's the thing. We use it because we are taught and we have learned to use it, but it's the worst response possible. Because basically what I'm saying is they go stand behind me and I will protect them. Basically, I'm telling the world that they need my protection I need to hold them because they are unable to stand up for themselves. Where the actual point is, people are generalizing. And instead of me saying, you're generalizing, I'm going to generalize to defend them.
Why are you generalizing by saying that's a wrong thing to say?
If I say it's a wrong thing to say because you can't say that about that group of people.
No, you forget the because. Forget the because.
There has to be a because if there is no because why it's a wrong thing
the because to do. It's because you can't say generalized things about any demographic of people.
Why not?
Because they're moronic, untrue, and hateful.
Are they? Being hateful is no argument whatsoever.
But it's like gross generalization is a fallacy.
I'm not saying they're correct, but if we argue that you're not allowed to say this because gross generalization.
No, you are allowed to say it. Well, I'm allowed to complain about you saying
exactly. Okay, like Millennial Wolves is allowed to say his racist bullshit, but we are allowed to criticize it.
I'm not saying we're not allowed to criticize him, and I think we should continuously criticize him. But if our criticism is because he's a racist, or any version thereof, our response basically, our criticism basically is hollow. It's empty because it's based on the same generalization.
Well, wait a minute. People who are against racism tend to be egalitarians and they want everybody to be treated equally. You're saying that people who want everybody to be treated equally are the exact same thing as people who want to white ethno states and want black people.
No. Now you're just ridiculing the point I'm making.
No, that was exactly my thought.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if in defense of racism, I have to use the same terms as a racist, I am a racist, even for defending the people who are being oppressed by it.
What terms? The only term you've used is don't say that, it's racist.
Well, yeah, that's the example I was giving.
Yeah, so the term, don't do that, it is racist, is the same language as a racist. I doubt it very much.
I don't think that Millennial Wolves would ever say, don't say that because it's racist.
Yeah, because Millennial Wolves may be a racist. I don't know, but he's not an egalitarian.
Exactly. Egalitarians and racists are different types of people. You know, like egalitarians wants everything to be equal, whereas Millennial Wolves, he wants to see white ethno states.
And
I mean, should we call him a white ethno statist instead? Or a white identitarian instead? What's the politically correct term to call Millennial Wolves?
Millennial Woes, because that's the name he goes by.
So we should be politically correct and call him Millennial Woes.
It's not about being politically correct. Now, remember, not too long ago, we had a talk on my channel, and we were talking about the abilities of women and men, and how men tend to be defensive towards women. And we mean that in the best of possible ways. But being defensive of women can indeed be seen as sexist, because basically, if I defend a woman, I'm saying she can't defend herself.
Well, I mean, I have no problem with, John calling out racist behavior. I don't feel less of a person because he does it.
That's not the issue. I'm not thinking John means it in a derogatory way. So I understand that you don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it per se either. But it works down the same boundaries as racism itself. Because if I, for example, hear someone say something racist, I can say I disagree. I can say it's, in my opinion, wrong. But as soon as I condemn it as a racism, I'm basically on the other side of the same argument, which basically says, okay, you can't say this about this group.
No, not this group. Any group.
Say it about...
Well, I mean, it's kind of a lot like okay, it's like Millennial Rose, I disagree with him, talking shits about Black people, but I also disagree with Louis Farrakhan, who is Black, talking shits about Jewish people, or I disagree with Gazi Koso, who is Black, talking shits about white people. I think Gazi Koso is a disgusting human being, because when we are egalitarian, you call us all racism from all groups, not hone in a particular group. You're not going to that, only white people are racist or only Black people are racist. You're egalitarian. You try to help everybody get treated as equals. So every, like if a Black person says something racist, that should be called out too.
I'm not saying that it shouldn't be called out, but we have to be careful in how we call it out.
You're tone policing.
Oh, but me and John are not progressives. Me and John are not,
This is not about tone policing. This is about making sure that we talk about what we are talking about and not about what, how do you call it, what the narrative is being pushed towards. This is what I wanted to talk about with Sargon when he wanted to push his English liberalism thing as a counter movement. As soon as you start a counter to anything, you are giving credence to the thing you are countering.
That is true, but you put you in mind. Because you have to fight back.
I don't have a problem with Sargon starting a liberalist movement.
No, I don't have a problem with that either. It's just the way he worded things. And they've been going on for a while. I've tried to talk to him. I failed at that. No problem. It's not a big issue. The issue is if you start a movement or if you want to do something and you base it on the rhetoric you want to change, you're basically giving credence to the rhetoric you want to change. So instead of calling someone a racist, talk about the individual action. Instead of calling someone a race traitor, talk about the individual action. Because calling someone a race traitor is the same as calling someone a racist. It might come from a different angle, but at the bottom of it, it's the same thing. It's judging someone on how he treats other races.
But to me, it sounds like you're trying to warn people not to use ad hominem attacks. That's what it sounds like you're trying to get towards. Like you're saying, address the arguments instead of the person. Like, don't use ad hominem attacks.
We are so normal in doing this that it took during the live speak when we were talking about women, and I was sure that I was right, and it's that Toxic Thread said, yeah, but if you say this, you're basically saying women aren't capable. And it took me that to realize, wait a second, I've been trying to defend women, and at the same time, I'm basically saying they're second to men in this situation. And whether
there's nothing wrong with defending women. It's how you go about it, but you can still defend women because there are women in the Middle East who have acid poured on their faces that could use help.
Not just the Middle East, in Britain too.
Yeah, Britain more so than in the Middle East, actually. But that's not the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make that even out of good intentions, we say stuff. And if we look back at what we say, We're basically the very same thing as to what we're trying to combat.
I think
Well,
you're lacking
We're
nuance.
doing it from, but we're
You're
doing it from
lacking
one angle.
nuance. Because, yes, I can understand in extreme cases what you're saying is true, but there are other cases where what you're saying is false.
The question is not
I
whether
agree with Sean here.
the question is not whether it's true or false.
No, you are true or false. You have oversimplified a situation.
John, if I can call you a racist for whatever reason, or I can call you an anti-racist for whatever reason, what does that word entail?
That someone is judging other people by race, and if it is demonstrable that they are doing so, then your description is accurate.
No, not really. Because even if that is demonstrably true, I still don't know why he's doing so. So
That's a different conversation.
But
I'm sorry, that's a different conversation.
But I'm keeping the conversation.
I mean, but some people make it perfectly clear that they are racist. Some people actually advocate for a white ethno states, and they mistreat Jewish people, they mistreat Black people, and they make it clear that they want Black people out of the country. They would let you know their intentions.
I'm not saying that there aren't people out there like that, but as soon as we start saying you're a racist, we are not talking about why they have those points anymore. We're not discussing the issue that brought them to that realization. Whether they're correct or not no longer becomes part of the conversation.
But
why? Because we decided that. So basically what we do is we call people race traitor to silence them. We call people racist to silence them.
We never called anyone a race traitor. I never would call anyone a race traitor. I don't believe in the idea of race traitor. Comparing that to calling someone a racist is disingenuous in mine.
I had to agree with Sean on this one. I'm sorry, Modwain, but I have to agree with Sean on this one.
Guys, Mod had to explain me what he meant, obviously, and then he went different way of explaining. I think, to me, how I see it, and I'm going to largely agree with Mod on this one. When someone is saying, indeed, something racial slurs, insulting a certain group of people, and I'm going to call out this person about this, because of the context of that situation I'm in, I'm putting myself on the side of the people I'm defending, which is, I do agree. I pretend as if I was the one who can stand up for those people, but maybe those people are just not standing up for themselves and are calm and just ignoring the idiot because they know, well, he's an idiot. I'm not going to spend time on him. The other thing is that, yes, as soon indeed as I call someone a racist, when I call someone in such a way by calling someone a racist, indeed, I'm losing the chance to basically prove his or her stance, arguments, whatever, wrong, because there is no longer room for a discussion. As soon as you say, you are racist, it's a racist thing to say, please stop, it's basically becoming you this, you that, and there is no more room for this person to defend his or her arguments, when even with racist arguments, I would rather see people saying why they think that, and let them defend their stance for a few reasons. First of all, it gives me a chance to basically prove them wrong. Second of all, sometimes you can have actually intellectually honest people who will articulate explanation of why they think certain thing, and there is a chance they might actually listen to themselves and think, oh, wait a second, I am saying an idiotic thing. And other people who will listen can think for themselves. And I agree with that on Mod. As soon as you say things like, you are racist, you killing the chance for that discussion. And you automatically, you cannot like not have the context of the situation. As soon as I'm going to defend someone, I'm standing on the side of that person. You cannot like ignore the context of it, if that made sense.
You're assuming an awful lot in that scenario. What if there's only two of you? What if I'm with my mate and he says something I find offensive, that sounds racist, and I don't like that? I'm not standing instead of anybody. I'm standing for me.
So then you can say, I don't like that.
Yeah. And
But no, you're
racist.
telling Sean what he can and can't say. You're basically going, Sean, don't say this, say that. You're basically
Tone policing. I
Whatever
said.
you want, but whatever you say does have influence. And I'm
Yeah,
not.
but the thing is that the other thing, she assumed is that you're a racist as a complete statement that is meant to terminate. It can be the start or part of
It's
something
never
you
the
say.
start. Calling someone a name, calling someone an insult, calling someone a derogatory term is never the start of a conversation.
Yeah.
However, what if the person was like yelling the N-word at somebody, and like the people who are black, they feel fear or terror, and then you are brave enough, and you're like, well, you are a racist, and you're standing,
No,
like Modwain says, like Sean stands as a boundary between the black person and the racist.
then why can't you say, I see that, don't you see that these people feel threatened by you? Stop threatening these people. It's going to be a far more interesting argument than, hey, stop being a racist. Because let's be honest, if someone does something with racist motivation, telling them not to be a racist won't stop them. So you're not.
But I mean, you may not have time, like like in a heated moment, you're just going to, just do the best you can at a heated moment.
And that's what I'm trying to say. Even in the heat of the moment, don't let identity politics be the argument. If someone is threatening people for being black, the problem is not that he's threatening people for being black. The problem is he's threatening people.
Yeah, but I mean, even if he's threatening people for being Asian or whatever, egalitarians will still speak up. It's like it's not good to not do to just black people, but to anybody. Anybody.
That's the point. But I wanna give you one example and one thing. We all might perceive different comments as already racist. So, for example, what for me might be already racist, maybe it's not for you. And I actually had that few times in a conversation when I said something and it wasn't racist, it wasn't meant as racist, and to me, in the way I understand the word, it's not racist. But the person who I was speaking with did view the word differently, and to that person, it was racist. And he truly believed it was racist. And you see, calling me a racist wasn't the start of the conversation. Actually, it went like, I'm sorry to say that, you're a racist. So I went immediately, like, there was some picture on internet that are calling people a racist. That's how leftists win the arguments nowadays, something like that. But would he say, for example, for me, things like, it seems really unfair to bring that up because this and this and that, we probably would have a decent conversation when I would say, why is it unfair? Why can't we use it in a conversation? It is a pure fact. But I didn't get ever the chance. It might be perceived, because we actually gone to a situation when someone is insulting people based on the race. But a lot of time people are calling other people racist because they perceived that something you say is racist when you really don't see it as a racist thing, and you really are not a racist person, and you don't mean it that way. And then boom, I call you a racist. It's not going to start conversation. And more to the point, other people, especially nowadays, immediately will turn on you because someone hears, oh, he or she's a racist, and there is all of a sudden, mob on the street, mob on Twitter, mob on Facebook, calling you a racist. So I agree with that on Mod, that even in the heat of the moment, we need to try to formulate the argument better, because once I call you a racist, especially nowadays, there is a big chance no one will listen to you at all. And what if I'm wrong? What if it's my perception of what you said is wrong? What if you even make a silly mistake because you're truly not a racist, and later you see like, okay, maybe what I said, I understand it now. How could it be perceived? Maybe I used just a wrong, I formulated it wrong, but I already called you a racist in the heat of the moment, and no one will listen to you. No one will listen to your explanation. Everyone will point out to you. And I think that's also a big part of why we need to, even in the heat of the moment, try not to point people like that and call them a racist, even if we think they say really truly racist thing.
It seems to me like you two are projecting. When I say you two are projecting, it's like you've had a bad experience of SJWs calling you a racist. So it's kind of like, don't use the word racist because you got called a racist. But when it comes to me, like, I don't flippantly call a person a racist. When I say Millennial Woes is a racist, it's because he wants a white ethno state. He actually wants to kick, Black people out of the country. He is actually advocating for racist policies. He hates it when white people and Black people date each other. He is actually at the extreme end of the spectrum. He is an extremist.
I'm not saying he's not an extremist. I'm not saying I agree with him. This started with the argument I made that calling someone a race traitor is basically the same as saying someone is a racist. Because you base the evaluation, the value of a person on how he perceives race, whether it's on the plus side or on the negative side of it, it is the same concept. And as long as we keep playing that game, we are not countering it.
But then it sounds like you're complaining about people using ad hominem attacks. Like, it just seems like you are just against people name calling in general.
Well, there's more to it than that, because we have been normalized to accept it to a certain extent. And we need to recognize that we are normalizing the way we are using these terms, whilst at the same time, we're not really countering these terms. We're merely saying, well, yeah, but you did this, therefore you are that. It's
I mean, to me, there's nothing wrong with that. There's just something wrong with taking things to the extreme end of the spectrum. Like, you're making everything black and white as if life is perfectly organized, or as if life goes a particular sets of way, when really life is, like, people, you don't know how people are going to react. And there are nuances. For example, while I would call Millennial Woes a racist, I have never called you a racist. But that's because we can have a conversation, whereas I doubt Millennial Woes would ever even talk to me.
I'm not saying he's not a racist. I don't know him. I don't care. What I'm saying is, if you call someone a racist, or if someone calls someone else a race traitor, it's both based on the same ethnical stances. And they are both, therefore, unnuanced and, in all fairness, wrong. There's more to it than just using a word.
Well, then it seems like your complaint is using ad hominem attacks. That's what it seems like you're complaining about. You're like saying nobody should ever use an ad hominem attack. Or, to a certain extent, it's almost like you're saying that nobody should ever insult another person.
No, I'm not saying you should insult. I'm not here to police speech. But if we are going to use these things as arguments why we think A or B, then we can't really give an argument, because we don't really know, because we are using the same ad hominems.
I mean, but However, I mean, I've seen Stick Saxonhammer successfully debated against alternative hypothesis. Our alternative hypothesis explained his views, and Stick Saxonhammer demonstrated how he was wrong.
But there's something different with proving someone wrong than starting or being part of your argument is being, yeah, but you're being a racist. That's
Well, I mean, sure
being
that it's an ad hominem attack, and you're attacking the person instead of the argument, but the person would need to make an argument in the first place. Now, if a person actually made an argument, then yes, calling him a racist is a bad idea. But if a person is just shouting the N-word and screaming anti-Semitic remarks, then I don't mind that person being called a racist.
I think it's also, to me, like, look, I'm not saying people cannot call other people racist. I mean, I'm pro freedom of speech. People do whatever the hell they want to do, and no, people say whatever the hell they want to say. The thing is, though, that we need to decide with every discussion and every confrontation we have, we need to decide what is our goal. And if I move more on this one, if someone is a racist and you just and you just tell this person to stop being a racist, it's not going to have a effect. It's like, stop being you. Stop being who you are, you useless fucking human being. It's basically what you're saying, and it's not going to have a response. It's not going to have a really, that start of the conversation. So of course, people can call other people racist, but we need to think: is it productive? And is there any other way we could start this conversation to confront the ideas of a certain person, so that person wants to engage, and maybe that person will not change, but maybe someone else hearing that will change. So it's just like, what do we really want from certain confrontation?
But it seems like you're assuming too much. And this is what I mean by projection. It's like you really try to have a conversation and a SJW called you a racist, and you're applying your experience to everybody else. When not everybody wants to have a conversation. Like I have seen scenarios where people try to have a civil conversation with the alt-rights, and the alt-right wasn't having it. Like if you want a conversation and the other person doesn't, then you cannot force a person to want to have a dialogue with you.
Of course, but here is the thing. I can either start to sparkle the conversation, and maybe someone doesn't want it, and then I find out, okay, you don't want it, fair enough. Or I can minimize the chance of it from the very get-go, or I can just say things that will makes more likely sure this person will not want the conversation with me anymore. So then I will not really know if that person would have a conversation with me, because of course there are people on the left and on the right who want the conversation or don't want a conversation. There are authoritarian people on both sides, right? But my point is that, look, if I don't know you, right, and I think, no, this is a bad example. If I don't know a person, and that person is saying something I think it's wrong, it's racist, I don't know if that person wants the conversation with me. Of course not. But if I call that person a racist, I'm making most likely sure that that person doesn't want to talk to me anymore. So it's not about assuming, it's indeed about giving it a chance. And then if you don't want the conversation, yeah, okay, then you don't want a conversation.
Yeah, but to me, that sounds like you are assuming that the person wants to have a conversation. You are assuming that the person wants to have a dialogue.
No.
And really, people are looking at the context of the situation. Like, people are looking at the behavior of the person. So if a person is just shouting racial epithets, people are just going to go, well, you're just shouting racial epithets, so you're not wanting a conversation. So it's like, well, you know what, you're a racist then. But it's kind of like a person would need to demonstrate that they do want a conversation, or are people assuming that they want a conversation?
Rin, first of all, if I would agree now with you, then how I would say, then how is it not that you're assuming that person doesn't want to have a conversation? Because that's the other end of it. I'm not assuming that the person wants to have the conversation, but I also don't know if the person wants to have a conversation. So I think my best bet on it is to give it a chance instead of say something that will shut the conversation to begin with.
But for
It's
me,
not about assuming, it is about not knowing and giving it a chance.
But for me, I just look at the context of the environments, like how is this person behaving? You know, it's kind of like you could just look at the context clues of the environments you're in. You could just observe for a few minutes and then go like, well, you're acting this way. So I could just go like, well, because you're behaving this way, you don't want a conversation. Because people who are shouting and screaming and throwing insults tend not to want to have a conversation. But if a person is calm, then they do tend to want a conversation.
Yeah, but at the very same time, okay, I'm going to tell you 1 minute story, right? I've been once in a city in, I don't know which city it was, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and at some point I see a lot of people running, right? A lot of people running. Okay, I turn, one guy is bleeding, the other guy is aggressive. He attacked the guy. He was still looking for a confrontation. I didn't know why the guy who attacked the guy, why he did it. And the other guy was walking probably with his girlfriend. He had like minor wound. It's like when you punch through the eyebrow and it's bleeding, right? The guy who got attacked and was bleeding, it was like 10 people were standing asking if he's okay, when one person would be enough, because he really did have a minor wound, right? And he was with his girlfriend and one extra person. Now, the other guy, I think he was with two friends, he was really pissed and he was looking for a confrontation and he couldn't get to it because there was a lot of people, but he really wanted a confrontation. Now, no one goes to come to talk to him because he's the aggressive one. So I went there, shook his hand, because most guys, even like that, I didn't have idea he's a bad guy. He was like, I don't know, 18, 19. So he didn't have it in him to actually not shake my hand. I said, listen, give me 1 minute and then I will be out of your way. I said, I'm not saying to you that you're wrong because I don't know what happened. Maybe the guy really said what you're claiming he said. I'm assuming that, and he pissed you off, calling your mother a fucking whore and all of that. Okay, here's the thing. Why are you doing it? Well, because I respect my mother and no one is going to call my mother like that. So you're doing it for your mother. Well, here is the thing. You know that if you're going to attack him again, someone will call the police. And you know, in this country, it's like 2 minutes, they are here. Your mother will be picking up you from jail, because I'm assuming, because actually I thought he was like 17. She doesn't want to do it. Trust me, no mother wants to pick up her son from jail. We had a short talk, minute as I promised, and I told him, look, you have a chance, you have a choice now. You can walk away, or you can attack him and end up in jail. And that's going to be in your papers everywhere. You try to go to school, you try to go to work, it will be in your papers. Decide for yourself if it's worth it. We can also just walk and have a chat about this. But as I promised, I'm done. And then he looked at me, he stared me down. I said, you know, I'm going to walk away, and we shook our hands. No one wanted to talk to him because he was the loud one. And I know it's a dread, but here is the thing. We never want to talk to aggressive, to loud people, but sometimes those people need the more attention, but the right attention. And if we're going to always assume, because, sorry, with all due respect, what you did now was assuming that the loudest people don't want to talk. Yeah, often they don't want to talk. Maybe some of them will want to talk if I can ask the right question. But if I'm going to just call them a racist, I'm going to make loud people louder. And that will be a problem, in my opinion. If that all made sense to you. and then all
Yes,
fight.
that does make sense, but you are also bringing up a very particular, very specific situations, and different situations would be handled differently.
Yeah, well, coming back to where we started, calling someone a racist is basing that narrative on how you perceive how they treat different races. But calling someone a race traitor is also based on how you treat other ethnicities. Now, calling someone a race traitor is probably being done by someone who's a believer of the ethno state, etc., which is a racial based or ethnical based ideology. But countering that is still arguing from that very point of view. So, I mean,
It just sounds like you are anti ad hominem attack, but
well,
at the exact same time, it's kind of like if a person would still need to present an argument in the first place, though.
but it is. But what I'm trying to say is they both come from identity politics. They both come from the same background. So they might come from the other side. It's the different side of the coin. But they
But I don't see how an egalitarian is using identity politics.
egalitarians shouldn't call people racist.
But that's not really identity politics because it's going by a person's behavior, not a person's skin color.
Yeah, but we are going to group them in. We don't know why they behave in a certain way. I mean, imagine this: you live in a city where 90% of the crime comes from a specific ethnicity. That's going to color your perspective of that ethnicity. So when they then say someone of this ethnicity is most likely a criminal, you could say, well, yeah, hashtag not all. Or you can call them a racist. By calling them a racist, you take away the motivation for that person. Why are you saying this?
It depends on the
There is no
context. This
reason
is
to
the
explain
problem.
yourself.
There are contexts where you need to stop someone's egregious action because it is a problem. And you are not attempting to have a conversation. You are attempting to modify behavior. And to fail to recognize those cases, which are the only cases when, to me, you would want to call someone a racist, is to miss the point.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it seems like you guys are honing in very specific, particular examples that I would probably never ever see. You know, you're going to do something where I would probably never ever encounter a situation like that. You know.
yeah, okay, one second.
John, to what you just said, although I'm forgetting it, here is the thing. I've watched a debate some time ago for a now I forgot what you said because I really can you repeat John, what you said so maybe it come back to my mind.
I was just saying that there are extreme cases when one.
No, say exact thing, so maybe I remember what I wanted to say. Hello?
Yeah, sorry. I'm not finding this a very productive conversation. This is the problem. It's like I don't feel Modwain has made this point well, whatever his point is.
I know what I want to say. This is I'm sorry, I know what I wanted to say. I'm sorry because I forget again.
Carry on.
It's pointless to me to say to someone stop being a racist because you have every damn right to be racist. As sad as it sounds, you have every damn right to discriminate people in your head, to have bad thoughts, to have hatred toward people. You cannot forbid people to feel a certain way. So if someone, and that's why I'm agreeing on not with this one, if someone is threatening people to kill them because they're black, it's not a problem that he's threatening people to kill them because they're black. It's problem that he's threatening to kill the people. I cannot forbid people to be racist. I don't like it. I'm not racist myself. I think it's stupid, but I cannot forbid people from being who they are and from feeling hatred. So stop being a racist. No, we're not going to stop to be a racist. So it's pointless to me to say you're a racist, stop it. So
But
actually
you're not
problem.
necessarily trying to dissuade the person per se. You're letting everybody know that that is morally unacceptable behavior. You're letting your children that can see you go, hey, that is morally unacceptable behavior. And
Behavior, that's why we call on don't threat the people. That's why the don't threat the people, it's important.
yeah, because I'm just saying that, you're not necessarily trying to change the racist person per se, but you're kind of like letting your children who are watching, that what you're doing, that the racist person is doing something that you find unacceptable person, so that your children could have your morals. And it's, letting society know that this is morally unacceptable behavior. You're not going to try to convert that person. You are just, letting your children know that that's morally unacceptable behavior, and so that their kids could be more like you.
That's why you don't say things like stop being a racist, because I don't care if you hate white people, if you hate black people, because I cannot forbid you from doing that. I care if you threat to those people or to any other person. So that's because it's the behavior that we want to modify, and not forbid people to feel certain feelings, because we simply cannot do it.
I mean, you can't change a person's emotions, but you can change their behavior. And there is something called like negative reinforcements, where it's kind of like, I would stop calling you a racist if you stopped acting racist. Negative reinforcements.
But Rin, I will stop calling you racist if you stop acting like a racist. Okay, sounds reasonable. So what's acting like a racist?
Yeah, exactly. Like you have that option. Like, what did I say or do that's racist?
Yeah, but
How
the
is that
thing is,
racist?
certain words are being used to silence people. Calling someone a racist is a term used to silence people. Calling someone a sexist, silence people.
It all depends on the situation, though. You're kind of narrowing it. That's like how SJWs use it, like how some black guy could bring up FBI statistics and the SJWs go, you're a racist, and they don't attempt to have a dialogue, even though some black guy is calm, cool, and collected. You are still going for very specific encounters. When I'm saying that different encounters you would go through different methods, through different cancers. You can't, it's not like one method for everything. You can't use one specific method for absolutely all of your encounters, or else you would perhaps make one encounter worse.
But as soon as you start any encounter with, well, you said it yourself. Basically, you started with an ad hominem designed to silence, used to silence.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't just walk up to a total complete stranger walking on the road and go, oh, you're racist, because that's just a terrible thing to do, because how would you know that the random person walking down the road is a racist? However, if a person wants to white ethno states and they are advocating to throw all black people out of the country, and they even talk about how they want to eliminate certain races, then that is reaching the extreme end, to where I do believe it is acceptable to call a person a racist.
But then still, the argument is not that they're a racist. The argument is that they want to diminish others.
On the basis of race.
Exactly.
I'm sorry for changing definitions again.
The question is not why. The question is what. And as
Yes,
soon
and the what is on the basis of race. I mean,
They're
the
doing
point
it on
is,
the basis of
basis
race,
of race
but they
is
are racist because
what?
the definition of a racist is if you feel like you are superior to another race. If you believe that your race is superior to another race, then you are a racist by the dictionary definition of the word.
But that's not true.
oh
That's
my
not-
God, we're having a definitional argument again.
But
Okay,
having-
can I
I'm
just
not-
make one little point, Mod, please, one little point. I am as upset by a person of my own skin pigmentation saying overly positive things about all people of my own skin pigmentation as I am negative things about people of other pigmentations, because any generalization based on the superficial characteristic is bollocks.
So
Yes,
you agree with me
like
then?
for me, I would call Gazi Koso a racist because even though Gazi Koso is black, and like Gazi Koso and I were about the exact same skin tone, I would still call him a racist because hating all white people is still racist. Even like if a black person hates all white people, I'll say it's unacceptable to say these things about white people. You don't, say that all white people are like that. It's unacceptable behavior.
So you agree with me then?
No, we don't, because
No,
there's
you
a
don't.
restraint here.
You are treating egalitarians as if they are social justice
No,
warriors.
no. Because your arguments now is everyone is equal with the same race.
Yeah, I am
No,
saying
there's only
that
one
black
race,
people
but
can be
that's not the
racist.
point.
That's my argument. Black people
you're
can be
making.
racist.
John, your argument. I don't like it when white people say too much positive about white people, even though
No, anything based on a superficial characteristic,
this is generalization based on ethnicity or race.
or
And I
sex,
don't-
or sexual orientation, or religion, or nationality, or anything.
So we disagree with that, right?
Yes,
And doing
but it doesn't mean I cannot recognize.
Let me finish now. I let you finish. Let me finish now, because this is upsetting to me. I don't mind that we disagree. I do mind that you don't let me finish. So please, I let you finish. Let me. So we agree that generalization on race, and I hate to use the word race because it's ethnicity, but fair enough, is a bad thing. Yes. Okay, so we agree on that. So how is it not a bad thing if it comes from the other side?
One has an attitude, and then somebody else has a different attitude you think is incorrect. Not having that attitude doesn't mean you cannot recognize that the other person has their attitude and you can criticize them for that attitude. It doesn't mean you have that attitude and they're not the same thing.
I'm sorry, we're going back and forth in circles. It's not about the attitude. It's when your
Is it
argument
only about the attitude?
when your argument is based on the ethnicity of a person.
But it's not.
Nobody is saying
But
that
it's
all white
not.
people are racist.
Never has been.
Yeah,
Neither one of us are saying that all white people are racist. We
It's
are
not.
acknowledging that black people can be racist too.
I know that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're a racist. I'm not saying John's a racist.
No,
What
you're saying that calling someone a racist is the same as a racist calling somebody a race traitor, and I say they're not equivalent.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but they are.
And you say they are. And the point is I'm saying when a non-racist person, an egalitarian, recognizes that someone is being racist, it doesn't mean that they agree with any of the worldview or the way that person characterizes people into groups. They're merely recognizing the behavior and applying to it the socially recognized term.
And that socially recognized term is the problem.
Fine, then that's a different question. The problem is tonight, after nearly 57 years of my life, this is the first time I've ever heard such a thing.
Yeah, and I told you that's the way we've been socialized. That's the way we've been raised.
No, it's because of the way language works.
No, it's not because of the way language works, because that's not what the word meant initially. It's what it became to mean.
Yeah, but we
Yes, but
are
that's the trouble.
using the dictionary definition of the word racism is when you believe that your race is superior to other races. If you believe that your race is superior to other races, that is the dictionary definition of
Rin,
racism.
Rin, I don't like arguments. I'm sorry. What the definition of the racism is, because with that we could actually defend feminism because it means beautiful thing in a dictionary. When you read about it in a dictionary, it's like, who would be against it, right? So that's,
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of the words we use are in the dictionary. That would be like saying that. I mean, the dictionary definition of exhume is to dig out, or the dictionary definition of talking is to communicate with somebody, or
yeah, but
the dictionary definition of
sorry, the
silence is not
definition of
noise.
talking. No. The definition was like talking silent, plate door. It's not like definition of feminism, racism, and such a thing, because those things are actually, plate is what a plate is, and what it was 100 years, and what it was, 200 years, or whatever, for example. But movements or ideas that are changing as we as society evolve, let's say. So that's why I said you could perfectly say that feminism is a great thing if you pull out arguments, because according to the definition of in the word book, this is what it means. But look what they're doing. So, and the same is with the words who have deeper meaning, like about, I'm lacking English right now to say it, but like with racism, for example, when we change perspective on it. So it's a bit tricky to get the definition. And
Yeah, but I mean, we still use the dictionary. It's not like people just quit using the dictionary. People use the dictionary when they want to learn a new word. Like if they wanted to learn what's the word stymied mean. Stymied means to hinder. That would mean it's like, oh, if you have a problem with using the dictionary, how would you ever learn a new word?
Ah, dear. You see, I'm afraid I must be simple because I was using a very simplistic understanding of the term racist and not somebody else's.
And that's kind of
oh,
and that's kind of the argument I'm trying to make, because
Well, if you'd made that argument,
okay, for a change, let's try this weird concept.
sorry, mate. Sorry, I'm sorry. I apologise. I'm being a bit flippant.
If it's in one direction,
Trying
we
to
have no
lighten the mood.
if it is in one direction, we have no problem in recognizing and calling it racism. If it's in the other direction, we bend backwards to call it all sorts of different names. And in that lies a problem, because then we're still not addressing what's going on. So calling someone a race traitor, yeah, I'm sorry, but that's still an ethnic-based slur, and you're doing.
Not the race traitor. No problem with the race
need
traitor.
to say, Modwain, is that it's an ad hominem attack. I think that when you say that, anti-racist and racist are the same thing, what you mean is that they're both ad hominem attacks, because both of them are addressed at the character of the person as opposed to their arguments. However, I mean, what if you are, your issue is the person's behavior, and you believe that their behavior needs modifying.
yeah, but why
Like
then?
you believe the person needs to change.
But why then? What? But why then don't address the behavior? Why we need to call people a racist? Because what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying. We need to modify the behavior, and this is what Mod exactly said. Then don't say you were racist. Then say, look, those people feel threatened. Stop threatening those people. That's addressing the behavior. That's addressing the action, and you're not allowed to threaten people, and you're not allowed to kill people or beat them up. But you're allowed to be racist. I'm not saying you are, by the way, but I'm allowed to be racist. I'm not. Don't freak out if you listen there. I'm allowed to be racist. Telling me, stop being racist. Like, why? Those are my beliefs. I can have, no matter how terrible my beliefs are, I have the right to have those beliefs. But when you tell me, look, those people are feeling threatened by what you're doing, stop threatening those people. Oh, okay, that's a different approach. That's a different conversation. But stop being racist. Who died and made you God? That would be my response. Is stop thinking that. Well, no.
Well, you are allowed to be racist, but people are allowed to criticize you. Racists are not immune to criticisms.
Of course, when you criticize me, don't call me names.
Well, then you have to be against all insults. You had to be against all insults, like SJW. You have to be against the insults, SJW, because you could say that you are, you can use the same arguments for why people should not be, use the term SJW.
There's one thing though. Either you SJW or not, for most of the people, word racist is negative and it's an insult.
Well, now, for a lot of people, SJW is negative and it's an insult. SJW is negative and it's an insult.
For us, not for SJWs. And there is a way more SJWs that are racist.
No. I mean, when it comes to SJWs, they do view it as an insult. In the dictionary, it's viewed as a derogatory term. And you can say it's used to silence a conversation. You're not trying to have a dialogue. You're not asking, why do you think this? Why don't you apply your line of logic to people that you would normally call SJWs?
I'm going to agree with you. If you're calling SJWs as a derogatory term, you're basically attacking them based on what you assume their points will be. Now, I won't say I never called someone an SJW, but if I did, I certainly did so because I, in a way, felt that they were wrong in whatever. But I didn't go into the conversation with them for whatever reason. I mean, often I try to get into conversations and they don't want to. Fair enough. But by using these terms as a be-all and end-all, basically, we are no better than them.
But now you're changing the context to the be-all and all, when really I would say that you would behave differently depending on the context of the scenario. Like I cannot, I am not God. I just walk into a scenario. I cannot dictate the scenario. I am only reacting to how a person behaves. I cannot dictate how they behave.
I'm not saying you can. But as soon as we, for example, a moment ago you also said, yeah, but you want to socialize your kids. So you use certain terms to do that. But
yeah, exactly. I mean, you want your kids to know what your morals are, but if you see bad behavior, now this is becoming like the Gillette's ad. It's becoming like the Gillette's ad where it's kind of like, hey, when you see kids beating up other kids, intervene and don't turn around and look away. It's all like you're actually arguing. Oh, like if you see something bad, don't address it. When you see something bad, the right thing to do is to walk away and act like you didn't see it. So if I see a white person beating up a white person, I don't know why that white person is beating up the black person. So the right thing to do is to just walk away to the situation. I cannot call that person a racist.
That's not quite the point that I want to make. The point I was trying to make is you explain why certain behavior is wrong. You don't name it, because by naming it, you are basically othering it. And by othering it, you cause the lack of discussion about it. And because of the lack of discussion about it, stuff like this festers.
No, I believe that when you say like this is problematic and you shouldn't do it, like beating up a person is problematic and you shouldn't do it, it discourages other people from doing it. Like if we, call the police and get that person in jail, you are going to discourage other people from doing it.
No,
You want to discourage the behavior to make sure that other people don't follow in the person's footsteps.
yes, but by using derogatory terms like SJW or racist or race traitor or whatnot, you're merely othering it. It's not going to stop them from doing it. It's merely going to make them either recognize with that behavior or not recognize with that behavior, and it will push a divide between you and the person you're trying to talk to.
Yeah, and one thing, something else for a moment. If someone sits across me, different example. Someone sits across me and talks about how there is a terrible wage gap and women have a terrible. I'm not going at this person like, oh, you must be a feminist, aren't you? Because that's not the point if that person is feminist or not. The point is that you're saying something that isn't true. And I can tell you, I can prove you how the wage gap doesn't exist. It has no value if you are speaking to me and you are feminist or not. Because what is going to bring this into conversation? So again, address indeed the behavior, but by calling someone a racist, we actually do not address the behavior. We actually just calling them a racist, which will basically call only more divide.
Yeah, humans are tribalistic. People want to hang around people who are similar to them. So there will be a moral a moral divide because people are naturally tribalistic.
And that's the problem, because as long as we're going to talk about the race and racism, it will be that talk about the behavior, because I think we can all agree here that, an assholes and a good people and a bad people come across all the ethnicities. And we're supposed to see people as decent people and criminals, like good people and assholes. So it doesn't matter what your race are, but it also doesn't matter if you are a racist. I'm addressing your behavior. And by calling you a racist, of course you can do that, but I'm just putting you into a box. I'm just insulting you. I'm just saying the word, but I'm still not addressing behavior in a real way to me.
Yeah, it goes by the situation. Every situation would be, treated differently. Like, of course, your method would work on some scenarios, but it wouldn't work on other scenarios. For example, I have a problem with black racists, but black racists don't want to listen to me, and I cannot force a black racist to listen to me. So it's kind of like if a black racist were to call me basically a white supremacist. I've been called a white supremacist before. If they want to call me a sellout, race traitor or whatnot, all I could do is kind of like, well, I try to have a conversation. You're just a racist. Because I've already tried, I already made the efforts, and you can't force a person to listen to you. You can only try, and if they don't listen to you, you just give up on them.
Indeed, and the problem is once you start using terms to silence, you also stop any conversation possible.
Can I just respond to that?
Conversation. Again, the person would have to wants a conversation. Otherwise, it's like talking to a brick wall. If you want a conversation and the other person doesn't, you're not going to get anywhere. Well, I mean, it reminds me of that 3-day fights between you, between us with social equalizer and loser one that didn't go anywhere. It never, ever went anywhere.
No, and in the end, I called them, especially social equalizer, I called him a racist. But I didn't do that because I wanted to silence him. I called him that because to make clear that everything he said was racist.
Well, wait a minute. Now you just called
You just
social
made my point.
equalizer a racist.
No,
Dude, this is what I'm talking about. Context
I
matters.
finished a
Context
conversation with it.
matters.
I finished a conversation with
You
it.
made my point.
You made my point too. You made our point.
No, I didn't. I'm
You
sorry.
did. That wasn't my point. That no one said you were using it to shut people up. No one said it was the only thing you were saying. No one said it was an insult. You assumed all those things.
Exactly. It looks like we won this debate, John.
Guys, I'm sorry. No, you misunderstood. There is a difference to have a debate with someone, and at the end, someone end up, okay, you are a racist, and there is a difference to start calling that name from the very beginning. This is
No one said we were calling the name from the very beginning.
That you should be racist from the very beginning.
We were.
Actually, we
No,
were.
we never made an argument. We never made an argument.
You were trying to say we weren't.
Let me go back to where this started. Yeah, this person talks about how he's been called a racist and how he has been called a race traitor by race realists. My argument is it's both the same thing. Your argument is no, it's not.
That's correct. You have summed up my argument perfectly.
Exactly.
Okay. I still disagree with you. You still disagree with me. Now, this was supposed to be talking about a book, and we've been busy for, let's say 1.5 hours, and we haven't gone further than the introduction. I still disagree with you, but it seems that I can't reach you. Fair enough. So be it.
Well, okay. Can I just say this little thing? Okay. You was talking about using an insult. Okay. I am firmly of the belief that offence is taken, not given.
Fair point.
Also, if someone is a racist, and I was very clear about using the term only when explicitly demonstrated by a person's actions, they are not going to be offended by being called a racist because they will know they're a racist.
Exactly. Racist people don't get offended by being called racist. They get called racist all the time.
Those arguments of yours don't follow.
No,
Yeah,
because
the only people who would get offended are people who aren't really racist.
And which is why racism is such an easy term to use, because it's 99% used against people who are not racist, but they are forced to be silenced because, hey, listen,
you're talking about the misuse of the term. We agree, but we were not talking about the misuse of the term. We were talking about a rare occasion. No, we were talking about a rare occasion when it could be used legitimately.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what.
No. We were talking about
rare occasions where it could be used legitimately. Because then, how come it's a-okay for you to call social equalizer a racist?
Because out of our long conversation. But never mind, I'm not going to go into it. Rin, can you please replace the introduction? Because this is where it started, so I can point out where it started.
Replace the introduction?
Please put up that article.
Screen share the introduction, please.
Screen share the introduction. Okay, hold on. Let me just... screen share. Okay, we were at, I may be the only person who has got some data threats from racist and anti-racist.
Okay.
Do you want me to read the whole thing?
Okay. Just leave it up for a moment, because he was called. Where were we?
I may be the only person who has got some death threats from racist and anti-racist.
Right. Yeah. When my parents were a civil rights struggle, late night callers promised the Ku Klux Klan would burn down our home because racists attacked them for being black supremacists, I guess. And the second one is though a lot of people praised him, a Texas person sent me a letter about being a race traitor. In neither of these cases, there has been a long conversation going in front of it. In neither of these conversations, in this example, because this is what we were talking about, there was a big hubbub about it at the beginning. Basically, they're called racist.
Okay, I made several attempts to describe exactly what I meant, which is contrary. I explained the context in which it might be reasonable, which have nothing to do with this scenario. I was not limiting my conversation to this scenario.
Well, we were talking about this scenario.
You started with that, and then we developed the conversation on.
What happened? Wait. What happened after this is that then you said racist and anti-racist are the exact same thing. Then John said, no, they're not. And then we got into a 1 hour long arguments about it.
Yeah. Okay.
In general, not specifically.
Yeah, in general, not specifically.
And you also used specific examples. You cannot have it in general and use specific examples and then claim it was in general. Sorry.
Yeah, I would acknowledge that you and Modwain use very, very specific examples that I doubt I would ever see play out in real life.
Or at least
Anyway, when it boils down to judging people based on how they treat other ethnicities, you're talking about racism. Whether it's left to right or right to left, when you judge people based on how they treat other ethnicities, you're talking about racism. It's not about supremacy. It's about what you think you are. If I have the right to tell you how to treat other ethnicities, that already assumes that I'm basing my motivation from supremacy. And whether that supremacy is because of my ethnicity or because of their ethnicity doesn't really matter.
Wait a minute, by the way, it sounds like you are making too much assumptions. It's kind of a lot like if you are telling a person that is a crappy thing to do, you don't have to necessarily view yourself as a supremacist. You could just want to a person to improve who they are and become a better person. Like there are things that I need to improve on, but like if a person politely told me that there are things that I need to improve on, then yeah, there are things I really can improve on. Like for example, Christiosity is my friend. If she politely told me that there are things that I could improve on, I would be willing to listen to her. But it's like that is not necessarily coming from a supremacist position. It could be coming from a position of trying to help motivate that person to become better.
Yeah, I agree. So would she then start with calling you a racist and then try to explain to you why you could do better? Or would she start by explaining you why you could do better?
Well, she would, but nobody argued that you should start off a conversation calling a person a racist. You are projecting what SJWs do onto us.
No. I'm not projecting here. What I'm saying is that from the example given in this book and how this works in general, because in this case, I'm not so much projecting as recognizing a pattern, is that either people who are anti-racists will call the racist bad because of the way they're treating ethnicities instead of actually arguing the fact why they think they are wrong. And racists tell you why black people or white people or whatever are bad because blah, 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 instead of actually arguing why this is the case.
Yeah, but I mean, if a white man is attacking, a black man, you just got to stop it, the best way you can. You just got to do your best you can at the moment.
Why? Why, if X attacks X, you have to stop it? Why?
Do we really want a society where it's okay to violently attack people? Do you also want a society where it's okay for everybody to murder everybody?
Are we now taking it to extremes?
Well, you say, why should I stop one person from attacking another person?
But
I'm talking about a physical attack. If one person physically attacks another person, yes, it's important to stop it. Call the police. That when you see a person get attacked, you should call the police. And if you're able
you,
to get one person off another person, you should do that.
but you said attacking. You didn't say physically attack.
Well, I
So
meant
there is already,
physically attack.
yeah, okay, but then there is already a difference.
Well, when I said attack, I meant physically attack.
Okay, but yeah, I agree with you. When you see two people scuffling it out physically, do what you can to stop them. But if someone is insulting someone else, why do you have to stop that?
Well, I mean, I don't have to do that because it's okay, if we're going to be talking about the internet, then offense, I mean, if it's just the internet, you could block the person, okay? So if a person is insulting you over the internet, you could just block them and move on with your life, or you could press power, or you could just get off the internet.
Yeah, fair point.
But when me and John are talking about calling people racist, we're not talking about using that word flippantly. We're talking about when it's in the situation where the person really deserves it.
I'm sorry, but the conversation really started like to go this direction when John wanted to to put argument against Mod and said, for example, if you see person calling racial slurs at people of certain ethnicity just because of their ethnicity, that it's okay to say, stop it, it's racist, stop being racist. And that's from the beginning, and that's how we got into that conversation. So yeah, it was mentioned there. It was mentioned like that. I remember that, and this is when it went from it's useless to start like that. It's useless to start to say to the person basically stop being who you are. But this was said. This example was said. So yeah, this is partly how it got there. So we can't forget that because it was said as if it was from the beginning, as if it was okay, but it's okay if it's very obvious. If you yell racial slurs, I can tell you stop being racist. It's racist to say that from the get-go. This is how the example was given.
There's nothing wrong with Chun's example. I had to agree with Chun here because you're not starting anything. You're going into a middle of conversation. And if in the middle of a conversation, somebody's already screaming racial epithets, you are stopping it from escalating until physical violence.
So maybe it's misunderstood, misunderstand, but it wasn't, to me, it wasn't said like that. To me, it wasn't said like that. And on this, I am with Mod. There is a really genuine difference between saying it at the very end when you just summon up, okay, I just, we have to agree to disagree, you're racist, and, after having long conversations, and basically to say to someone, hey, stop saying those things, those are racist things. You are being a racist just because I hear someone screaming racist things. And this is how the situation was portrayed. So
I'm sorry for being very simplistic in my speech.
No, I don't.
You are reading so much into the scenario that wasn't there, ever intended, and therefore, you are arguing to points that I never made.
John, as I said, maybe it's misunderstood. If I saw, and I apologize. And either it was or not, it's not like it was. You bad for saying that or something. So, but this is how I understood it. So maybe I misunderstood it. And if that's the case, I apologize. This is how I understand it. How I did understand it.
Yeah, I know. And I tried to point out several points that your characterization was not as I meant it. But I apologize for using a very shorthand description of what to me was a simple case that sometimes people might be acting overtly racist, and therefore to point out that they're being overtly racist is not the same as calling someone, say, a race traitor, which has no foundation in anything.
And it's different to call, a person who is overtly racist a racist and calling a person a racist because you disagree with them. Like it's a difference between calling, Millennial Woes a racist, and there's a difference between that and calling some black guy a racist because he used FBI crime statistics, where the crime statistics say that black people commit more crime. There's a difference between, some black guy giving the facts and he's getting called a racist by SJWs, and a person who wants in white ethno states being called a racist.
Yeah, but look, Mod argued that calling someone Mod argued that calling someone racist or calling someone a race traitor is basically doing the same thing, right, Joey? Mod, you argue that. Okay, and let me. So he said basically, calling someone a racist or calling someone a race traitor is basically doing the same thing. And let me read this to you. I may be the only person who has gotten death threats from racists and anti-racists. So it seems to me they did the same thing. I'm sorry.
I mean, okay, this is where these are just, people behave badly sometimes all across the political spectrum. Even apolitical people behave badly sometimes. There are going to be, centrists that, for example, that would mistreat people. There are right wingers that would mistreat people. There are people who are on the left who would mistreat people. That's going to be true for people all across the political spectrum, because there's going to be a crappy person from each and every single political group.
Yes.
So it's not like really that racist and anti-racist are just going around doing death threats. It's much more like, as human beings, we mistreat each other. Human beings mistreat each other sometimes.
But the action of the racist and anti-racist were the
Calling
same.
calling someone a race traitor is basically the same as calling someone a racist, just from the other angle. That's all I said. That's all where this came from. And for the longest time, people said no. And to me, judging someone based on how they treat other ethnicities inherently is racist, whether it's from the left or from the right, whether it's in one direction or the other direction. We need to step away from this identity politic tactics, because in the end, it only drives us apart. Even if we like to be positive towards each other, even if we think we are doing stuff to help each other out, we are not.
I mean, it's kind of like if a person is part of the alt-rights, if they are a white identitarian, they want nothing to do with me, and I want nothing to do with them. Sometimes people want to be separated.
That doesn't mean we should applaud it. That doesn't mean we should help it along. For example, let's look at America now. They are closer to racial segregation now than they were 10 years after the ending of racial segregation. Hell, there are universities where they're actually calling for racial segregation.
But it's like you are projecting what Chris. I mean, it's like you are projecting what's the left thinks onto me.
It's not so much whether it's the left or the right. What I'm saying, it doesn't matter where it comes from. The problem is
when it comes to me, Modwain, I'm an egalitarian. I'm not a progressive.
Yeah, fair enough. Doesn't matter.
I don't think that's either, the left or the right should be racist. I don't think the left should be anti-white, and I don't think that the right should be anti-whatever.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Racism is bad. But we can't counter-argument racism with racist arguments.
I don't think being against racism is the exact same thing as being for racism.
I'm not saying it is, but we can't counter it with racist arguments. So if we're going to say to people, yeah, but you're a racist, and use that as an argument, then we're not countering racism. We're merely...
Well, I mean, it's not an argument, it's an insult.
Fair enough. And all we're doing is driving it underground, where it then is left to fester and it will return. And this is true for racism, and this is true for anti-racism. The question is how fast it is. Let me see if I can find it. So let me see if I can find it, and I will share it, and I will try to make sense of it in a different way then, if I can. Come on. Sorry, my internet seems to be a little bit slow, but I'm trying to open a poem by Rudyard Kipling. Some silly reason, won't be able to do it. Come on. Okay, here it is. Let me screen share, show that I'm not making this up. This is the problem that we're talking about, right? Oh, I'm sharing the wrong one. No, I'm sharing the right one.
Men of the West.
Yeah, that's the website, but I was trying. It's his poem, and you can find it in a lot of places. And now Men of the West have used it as well to make their argument. But in the end, it's not so much about the section; it's more about the whole thing. This is an actual poem from Rudyard Kipling, by the way. So I'm using this one. You can look it up on any other website, just so you know what the poem is. It was not part of their blood, it came to them very late, with long arrears to make good when the Saxon began to hate. They were not easily moved, they were icy, willing to wait till every count should be proved ere the Saxon began to hate. Their voices were even and low, their eyes were level and straight. There was neither sign nor show when the Saxon began to hate. It was not preached to the crowd, it was not taught by the state. No one spoke aloud when the Saxon began to hate. It was suddenly bred, it will not swiftly abate. Through the chilled years ahead, when the time shall count from the date that the Saxon began to hate. And why is this such a strong poem? Because how are people being bred to hate? Because they are not allowed to say certain things. And by cutting off the way people talk, by not allowing them to make arguments, you push these arguments underground. They start to fester.
Nobody's saying that they are not allowed to say what they want, but we are allowed to criticize them for it. It sounds like you're saying that criticizing racists is bad.
No, criticize them. By all means, criticize them. But don't criticize them by merely calling them racist, because with that, you merely silence them. Criticize them on the points, not on the collective name given to it. Because if you criticize them by the collective name given to it, they will withdraw from the conversation and it will fester.
Nobody's saying that. I mean, if they actually present a point, and then yeah, it would be bad to just say you're a racist. But if they are just shouting racial epithets, they didn't even make a point. You know, like you would have to actually make a point for a person to address the points.
But the point is not. Listen, if someone calls you a race traitor,
Can we ignore that part? Because no one's in disagreement about that part.
well, that's the whole thing about the argument.
I'm lost.
Calling someone a racist or calling someone a race traitor is both coming from the same thing, just from the other angle.
Yes, but we know about that side. I don't see
so far,
how calling someone a racist is the same angle. That's all I'm saying. So can we tackle it from why it's always wrong to call someone a racist?
And if it's always wrong to call somebody a racist, then you were wrong to call social equalizer a racist.
I'm not saying it's always wrong to call someone a racist. I say it's wrong to call someone a racist at the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah.
Then we have a misunderstanding.
Yeah, then I would agree with you. It's wrong to call somebody a racist at the beginning of the conversation.
Well, I'm glad that after 2 hours you can agree with me. For fuck's sake.
But I don't agree with the point you made.
Yeah, it's
The point you made is poor.
change your point to.
No, that's the point that I made.
It's just like you change your point. It's like only for the last 30 minutes did you say, "Oh yeah, it's wrong to call somebody a racist" at the beginning of the conversation. It's like now you're adding that in. Well, you didn't say that from the very beginning. If you said that at the very beginning, we could have not have this 1 hour debate.
It was based on the introduction of the book we were about to talk about, which never did. So when I said at that point in time, calling someone a white or black supremacist or calling someone a white or black race traitor comes from the same angle.
Okay, sorry. I misunderstood because I didn't contextualize it. I took that as a statement on its own merit and disagreed with it.
We were really talking about it. Even when I was saying example, I was saying when you start to react to it by just calling someone a racist, you basically lower the chance next to zero to have a conversation. I was saying that often I was saying when you start with it, it's not a good starter. It's going to shut it down. And when you shut it down, you don't have a conversation, so you don't have any chance to dispute it. It really was said, guys.
Here's the problem. I'm not allowed to interrupt, but if I was able to interrupt, when you said when you start with it, and I can then say, but I'm not starting with it, or not only saying it, and then I wait for the rest of your point, and then I say those things, and you've forgotten. It's like
no, it's like
I agree with John here. Sometimes you need to interrupt people. It's necessary because they have a faulty premise. You know, it's kind of like nobody here is saying that you should call a person a racist at the start of a conversation. Nobody is saying that.
well, that was the misunderstanding that I had, for example, from John's example, which I admit I probably understood it wrong, but this is how it did sound to me. But you don't have to interrupt me to say it. You can just finish what I'm saying, so I didn't mean that.
I did several times.
Then basically, okay, then sorry, we all did it wrong. We've gone really wrong with that. On my part, I apologize.
And several times I tried to point out how the arguments you were using were not addressing the points I was making. And then you if keep repeating it, and it's like, but I'm not allowed to say, but I'm not talking about that.
Guys,
yeah, I agree with John here.
If there would be like, if we would be like huge YouTubers, so that million would listen to us, there would be a memes about this.
The problem is I wasn't talking about conversations. I was talking about ugly public incidents or things like that. Often, you know, it's how one comports oneself. Personally, I don't believe in insulting the person I'm talking to. Ever. It's like, it's not productive.
Yeah, but to me, and to me, with those ugly incidents on the streets, it's also not productive to start it this way. So that's how the conversation went. And I'm not going into it again because everything was said for the last almost 2 hours.
Okay, here's a thought. Okay, just a little thought. Okay, so I've been to several events protested by the lovely Antifa types. And they shouted, the people on our side, that we're racist and sexist, whatever. I think it is perfectly legitimate to point out to them that they're the ones being racist and sexist.
Yes, but
because it's their own argument.
Yeah, and you now actually made my point a little bit, and Mott's point as well. Like, okay, so they call me a racist and sexist, and then I point, no, you are the racist and a sexist, and then we have a whole conversation. You are a racist, no, you are a racist. You are a racist, no, you are a racist. That's not productive because you're just calling each other racists.
Yeah, but you don't have a productive conversation with Antifa by their own policy.
That's true.
So it's not a question. It's not a question of you can go up to them and engage them in conversation because you know they will only scream at you.
And what's the point me screaming back at them? Seriously, insulting.
Because sometimes you have to do the least worst thing.
The least worst. Okay.
You have two sides. And one side is shouting at the other that they're racist and sexist. If that goes unchallenged, if it goes unrebutted, anyone looking at this might think that is a reasonable accusation.
But it's also like the more you defend yourself, the more you seem guilty. And the more I scream, no, you're the racist, it's sort of defending myself.
Yeah, that's like Anna Soubry complaining that the people calling her Nazis were Nazis.
I mean, I agree with Sean. I think I see where he's coming from, because if somebody calls you a racist and you leave that unchallenged, it would be like they were speaking the truth. And the reason why you let it unchallenged is because you really are a racist. That's the reason you call them a racist in return.
No, it's in some cases you need to defend yourself, but seriously, if someone is going to call me a racist based on what I said and not giving me arguments why what I said was racist, just call me a racist, I'm not going to engage that conversation. I'm not going to say, no, I'm not a racist, because
but this is why
everything I said is out there. And if you want to prove me wrong, but not by not calling me a name.
Public perception and optics.
Me and Sean were talking about nuance. Like, you keep talking about a very specific incident where one guy is chasing another guy and one guy is beating another guy to a pulp, and you walked up and you gave that guy a handshake. Okay. Something that you brought up a very specific, scenario that I have never seen in my life. I've never seen one guy chase another guy down. I'll probably never see that. And it's like, we are trying to bring up nuance to you, and you keep, whenever we try to bring up nuance, you just keep wanting to say what you want instead of listening. Like, hey, there are nuances, and there are going to be cases where it's okay to call somebody a racist.
But the thing is that, okay, so let's go with your example with Antifa. Here is the thing. Antifa called me racist. Well, I can ignore it and I can say, no, you're racist. And guess what? If I say, no, I'm not a racist, you actually are a racist, it still doesn't mean that I'm not a racist. I still didn't prove anything.
Yeah,
I just say, no, you are the racist, and I just claim not to be a racist, but I did not really prove anything.
We didn't prove anything, but if you leave it unchallenged, then people are going to declare you really are a racist.
But I didn't challenge it by not proving it.
Your parents, your employers, your neighbors are going to start thinking that you are a racist because people are shutting you down that you're racist, and you just smile and you just ignore it because me, to other people, it would be like an admission of guilt.
I'm really sorry. Two things. Yeah, you're right that if I leave it unchallenged, but I'm not challenging really someone by saying, no, I'm not a racist, you are a racist. It's like, I'm really sorry, I don't want to not be offensive, but it's like 5th grade of you stupid, no, you stupid, you this, no, you that. I'm not challenging anyone by just, I'm not challenging anyone by just repeating insults at them.
It's less about changing the other person's mind, but it's kind of like there is a third party watching the two of you. And if somebody is calling you a racist and you leave it unchallenged, people are going to presume that you really are a racist.
Actually, that's how people think of it. And that's why terms like racist, sexist, etc., are meant to end discussions, because you can't talk about what you're talking about anymore. The only thing you can talk about is all of a sudden, I have to defend myself for being called an ist or an
Well,
ob.
because, if you don't defend yourself, there are people who have lost their jobs. There are people who got expelled from college, all
Yeah, but they
because
got
they
these
got
things
called a
after they
racist,
defended
and it
themselves.
was left
Defending is
unchallenged.
useless.
If you challenge it, they probably wouldn't have gotten expelled from college.
No, they gotten challenged. They did challenge, and they still gotten expelled.
Yeah.
So challenging it doesn't really make a difference anymore. If people call you an ist or an oop, there is no defense against that. So why bother? But at the same time, if we start doing the same thing, there's no defense against it. So why bother?
And the problem is we've gone. What? My problem with perpetuating, saying like, no, you are a racist. It's indeed the problem that we're living in a time that once you're being called a racist, people don't want to listen to you. People will shout over you. So if I'm being called a racist, first of all, by just saying, no, you are a racist, like to Antifa, I'm not challenging that. I'm just only, just I forgot the English term for it, but I'm basically returning the insult. But because of people calling each other racist, it's gone so far that person who's called a racist often cannot defend him or herself anymore because no one wants to listen to you. And that's why I don't want to do it, because I'm not going to be part of that. Because I might be truly think that you say something racist. I might be truly believe that, although clarification, because I know we are online, I've never heard you saying anything racist. I'm not saying you are. But let's say that from my point of view, I really think you said something very racist. And then once I accuse you of being a racist, a lot of people are not going to listen to you.
Oh, dear.
You're done nowadays. So that's to me. And another thing is, why do I need to challenge that? I'm really sorry if people are going to think that I'm racist merely because someone called me a racist. And if those people don't want to hear my end of the story, they don't give a slightest fuck what did I do to deserve that, but they just going to assume I'm a racist, then I'm really sorry, fuck them, because they're really stupid. Because if someone comes to me and said, you know what, Rin said this and this and this, and I think she's this and this and this for that, and if it's going to bother me that much, so I don't know, for example, if I want to be in a stream with you, I'm going to listen to your end of the story. And if you don't say anything, I'm not going to assume, oh, okay, but he said that about Rin, so she's surely that. So now I'm going to have my opinion about Rin because someone said something about Rin and Rin didn't feel like saying it's not true. Or maybe Rin didn't even know. No, I'm sorry. If people think I'm racist only because I've been called racist and I didn't challenge it at that moment, and they don't look at in general what I'm saying, fuck them. It's stupid. They can think I'm a racist. Seriously.
Well, yeah, I do agree with that points. I do agree with that points. But me and Shana are saying that there's going to be particular cases where it's probably okay to call somebody a racist. We're not saying it all times.
I didn't hear it. There are going to be cases when I just didn't hear it.
Oh, do you need me to repeat myself?
Yeah, please, because there was something on my end that some distortion, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, they're gonna just like, there's gonna be some cases where it's okay to call somebody a racist. There are times when it's not okay, and times where it's okay. There's nuance. Like, I don't feel bad calling Adolf Hitler a racist, for example.
That's another conversation, but I don't care for him. Sorry, and I don't care for him either. But because I understand, but we've gone on this conversation because you have to defend yourself. And no, why? If you want to know if I'm a racist, ask me. So that was my point, because you guys said you have to defend yourself because other people then are going to think that you are a racist. First of all, it doesn't work, because once you're defending yourself, you tend to apologize, and people were defending themselves and were apologizing, and there have been people who saying this is not how I meant it, or blah blah blah, and they still lost the job, and they still have no social life or life on social media anymore. And second of all, you think I'm a racist and it's bothering you, ask me, get to know me together, decide for yourself. Not because of what, but at the same time, look, if we have a conversation and in the end you say, we have, you think I'm a racist, but we had a long conversation, okay. But again, we're coming back to the assumption that apparently we all are wrong about, so I don't want to go to that. Sorry, my excuses.
Well, I was just saying this. I don't believe it's okay to flippantly calling somebody a racist, because calling a person a racist could ruin somebody's life. But I am talking about when a person wants a white ethno states and they want to evict all brown people out of the country. It's racist. I'm not talking about when a progressive flippantly calls some black guy a racist.
Yeah,
but it's like different between that and calling a person who is a white identitarian a racist.
Okay, here's the thing. I can think of now about two people I probably met. I don't know if I met more of them, but I can think of two people that admitted to me that they are racist. One of those people did say that they have some dislike towards black people, but that person also said, I know it's wrong, it's like it's driving me crazy, I know it's wrong, and then still I have this dislike, and I don't have a contact with this person anymore. But I don't know, the other person that admitted to me to be racist did believe in her arguments, and if in being a racist, she did believe she was right. And then, as Maud said earlier, if I would say to her, you are a racist, then she would just say, yes, I am. So it's pointless anyway. And I think John pointed that out as well. Like if someone knows, if I know I'm a racist and I stand behind it, again, I'm not need to. Then if you call me a racist and I'm actually a racist and I stand behind it, then I don't care, that I'm going to tell you indeed, yes, I am. So it's just that there is, even in that case, for me, there is no situation when it's productive and makes sense.
That still lacks nuance, because again, if you are around your kids, you will want your kids to know that you disapprove of such actions. You're not going to turn a blind eye to something that you believe is morally wrong.
But I can also, I don't have to show my children that I disapprove of racism by calling someone a racist. I can just, we encountered certain situation, and I'm coming back at this at home and basically explaining why I'm disapproving of this point of view, of this way seeing the world and other people. It's not like if someone is a racist and I don't call that person a racist, I don't call out, then I'm showing my kid acceptation for it.
But then that would seem cowardly because if you have these principles, why aren't you standing by those principles when you have the opportunity to?
But I rather because if I called you are a racist and I'm doing it also as demeaning way because I don't stay, I already am insulting you. So you already insulted. I already say you someone I don't like and you are worthless, and then you're not going to listen to what I have to say because it's. But when I, for example, say things like. I'm trying to have an example from the conversations I had actually, because it was a funny story. I had a friend and I didn't know she's a racist. And she was waiting, and I don't know, for whatever reason, she disclosed to me that she's really a racist. And it took us quite some time to drift apart because I didn't stand up for what she believes. But I tried to ask her, like, okay, but why you think that? And okay, but look from the other point, I tried to prove her that what she thinks is wrong and it's not true. It's not even wrong or right, it's not true. Now I failed at that. She was really far into that and we naturally drifted apart because after so much trying, okay, this is not my thing. But if I would just say, yeah, you are a racist, she would be less likely to listen to my argument because I already show her that I think less of her. Now, if someone is coming to me, and it's very common for people, and try to convince me that I'm wrong, but does it without respect, I'm less likely to listen and engage with that person. Because that person is already disrespectful to me, showing therefore the superiority and showing, yeah, I think basically lesser of you. So I'm not going I'm less likely to listen to that person. Now, when I got challenged by asking the question to back, basically when the people expect me to back up what I'm saying and do it respectfully, I am engaging in the conversation. And yes, often I'm also proven wrong because I'm only human being. So, you know, it has happened that I thought something and someone was respectfully asking me questions and basically giving me arguments. And then we came to the moment when I said, oh shit, yeah, okay. Would they be disrespectful to me? I wouldn't go into the conversation because I respect you. Expect the same. So yeah, I am going to debate. If I see the racist person on the street doing something racist, right? Or if I have it in my real life, I am going to stand against it, but not by calling these people a name, but basically tell me why you think that. I'm trying to understand your point of view genuinely, although sometimes it's really hard. And then I'm going to tell you why I think differently. And hopefully I will make you think. And hopefully you will come to a point when you think like, okay, no, I shouldn't judge people by their ethnicity.
Well, you're still going by your own life experience. From my experience, I have dealt with the alt-right before, where they were talking about wanting to lynch me, where they talk about wanting to murder me. They do. If you are Black and you have to deal with the alt-rights, you're not going to have a civil, respectful conversation because they mistreat you from the very starts. They straight up would tell you that they want you dead.
Yes, and I have met people like that as well, although okay, I admit I didn't meet person who was racist towards me, but I've met people who disagreed with me on different things, and when I try to engage in a polite conversation, they didn't want to talk to me. And I also understand that in extreme cases, like, look, I can understand that if I would come to you, right, and insult you and told you that I want you dead, which I don't, but you know, that you don't try to engage in a polite conversation, I understand this extreme, but we cannot go everyday life by extreme. Those people exist, and with those people I understand.
But that's what me and Sean have been saying for the past 2 hours.
But
for the past 2 hours, me and Sean were saying nuance. Sometimes it's perfectly acceptable to call people a racist. And me and Sean already stated that we already called the extremist racist.
But the thing is, But the thing is that if you call outright, it's not even whether, because I don't argue if it's okay or not. I'm arguing if it's productive or not. If you call a person who's truly a racist, like extreme, like those people who would want you dead just because of the color of your skin, right? If you, of course, you can call them racist. You can call racist whoever you want, but it's still not productive because they probably will take a pride in it.
Yeah, but I mean,
so what for?
We're not having a productive conversation anyway. They're not being productive by coming up to me and telling me that they want me dead. How are they engaging? How are they initiating in a productive conversation?
But why? Because they are unproductive. You're going to be unproductive. Therefore, you're actually allowing them to decide how you behave. Because if you would say, okay, you are an unproductive asshole, and I'm not going to engage, then you have control of how you behave, which I'm not saying I'm good about because I'm still working on it. But basically, you are an unproductive asshole, and you don't want to have productive conversation. But I'm not going to be unproductive because that's not who I am or strive to be. And if I just call you a name and do unproductive things just because you do it, then in a way you decide my behavior. So you, that asshole I so disagree with, you decide my behavior.
But it seems like you're taking the pacifistic do-nothing routes. When really, I mean, it's kind of like if somebody, what's the old quotes? Evil prevails when good people decide to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Yes, so you got to do something, or else you are allowing it to happen. You know, it's kind of like evil prevails when good people decide to do nothing.
For
they
the,
don't want to take any stance.
For the longest time, I haven't been part of this conversation. I've been listening, but I haven't been part of the conversation. What I'm saying and what Son is saying is not do nothing, do something, but make sure you do not force it underground. Don't silence people with certain things. Come with arguments. Because by forcing it underground, you will cause it to fester. We both agree that ethno-states are bad. We both agree that racism is bad. We are completely eye to eye on that one. I'm sure of it. The thing is how to deal with it.
Then they would have to be the ones to present the arguments. And then if they do present the arguments, then yes, the best way to go is to present good counter arguments, not insults.
But isn't that the whole thing? Isn't that the whole thing? Don't start with calling someone, come with good arguments. And if you can't, then okay, you know what? I disagree, period.
But that's what me and Sean have been saying for the past 2 hours, that we don't flippantly go around calling people a racist. We only call people a racist at the appropriate time.
But we started this conversation because of the book we were about to talk, which is not going to happen now, I'm sure of it. This example comes from a certain point of view. And my argument has been this point of view comes from a certain ideology. And you and John are talking like, yeah, but after we given people a chance. Yeah, but that's not what the example comes from.
Again, I'll just say this once. You have framed the whole conversation on that paragraph, and me and Rin have not. So we're having different conversation.
Yes.
So you're trying to win a point based on two separate conversations. You made a statement that seemed like an absolute one with which I took issue. As an absolute statement, not in the context of that particular sentence in that particular article. You said that calling people racist for overt racist actions is equivalent to a racist calling people race traitors simply for living their lives not giving a shit about race. And I'm sorry, I cannot find those two equivalent.
I agree with Sean.
Yeah, I know you do, because we've been going back and forth for this about the last 1.5 hours.
I want to say.
Oh, okay. Well, my wife wants to say something.
I want to say. I'm sorry. I want to say one thing too, because we've been on this extreme examples when people would wanna you dead just because of the color of your skin, and it's okay to call them racist. There is one other thing when I was saying that if you go down that road, they call you some name, you call you some name, you call them some name, and then it's justified, right? But basically you decide for them for your action. But there is other thing, and I cannot now recall this example, but like if your integrity, if who you are, if you stand by it, you don't know if it could do more good actually. And there was like I read about it when the civil rights movement started, and there was a lot of protests in America, right? And there was a protest, and then some black people were beaten up, really beaten up. And now I can't really recall that example really well. Was it that the black guy was beaten up by a white dude? And I don't know now really if it was that he could, because it was already getting better for black people, and he could actually press the charges, or situation changed and he found himself actually with a group of black people that wanted to beat those guys who beat him up back, something like that. I don't know. Basically what he said, no, I did not come here to fight white people. I come here just to be treated equally. I'm not going to do that way. And years later, the person who beat him up found him, apologized to him, and said, I've been thinking, it's 20 years later, and I've been thinking all the time what you said. And that's how I changed my mind. So what I'm trying to say, that by starting to insult each other and go down that road, we perpetuate it. Of course, if you have real threat, you need to do everything to, get the hell out of the threat and call the police, and I'm not saying, but when it's if some black person who is extremely racist would come to me, like not in my house, because obviously then I feel threatened and call the police, but would say to me on the street, just say to me or on the internet that I'm a, I don't know, fucking white whore and he wants me dead and whatever, right? I hope that I wouldn't call him any names, even a racist, because it's only have a chance to perpetuate things. And that I'd call him that will not really do anything to him. So I'm really sorry that I don't have this example, and I have too little of the story to find it fast, but basically that integrity of one person and saying, no, I'm not going to down that road. That doesn't mean that when you're actually in threat or someone else is in threat, we don't have to react. That doesn't mean we don't have to try to help when someone is physically attacked. That doesn't mean that we not call police. Of course, physical threat, slightest, we do have to go on it. But not going down that road that the person is going who I criticize, who knows? That might be the cure for it. Too little people are doing it to know. So here is, and that's why it's counterproductive to me. I'm not saying that people cannot do it, because people can say whatever they want to say. But either you are not racist, you said something wrong, or you're not saying that way, and you feel insulted and you're not going to talk to me anymore because I basically put you into a box. Either you truly are a racist and you're going to take pride in it, and you're probably going to laugh a little bit that I was so pathetic to call you a racist, or or you're going to be annoyed with it that I dare to speak to you back, and you're going to put even more hatred my way. It's not productive. And that's what I was trying to argue. And I do agree it's hard, because I don't know how I can only hope how I would behave if someone would, threaten me or say such a horrible things to me that they want me dead because of a color of my skin or whatever. I can only hope how I would behave. So it's also not criticizing you or other people, because I can only imagine it's very hard. I'm just arguing that maybe different approach would be better. And that's not say that I don't understand why people react the way they react, because as I said, it must be horrible. But to me, reaction is really necessary, because here is the thing: when we are going to have you always hear most the unreasonable people, right? With protests, with like Antifa stuff, like, you always hear the unreasonable people. And when the reasonable people are going the same way, that's how violence happens. That's when it's really violence happens. Now, I'm not saying that reasonable people don't have to do anything, but we have to find another way than the way of the people we criticize. Although, again, I'm not a master of it, I admit. It's just like, it's easier said than done, I know that.
Well, I mean, I think it's better to do something than to do nothing at all and just walk away and allow things to happen, and to just do, because it seems like while you're saying, you're not saying do anything. It's just like, well, it's just like, I'm not saying don't do anything, but I just don't think it's good to do this. I don't think it's good
No.
to do that.
Listen, here is the thing: if I don't know you, or now I know you, yeah, or let's say I don't know you, whatever, and we walking and I see walking and I'm walking on the street, someone is going to insult you, but just by words, I'm not going to say anything, simply because if that person would insult me, I would also keep walking. And I think you're capable of talking back if you want to, and if you don't want to, there is a big chance you just see it's a it's a waste of time. As soon as I see the person is threatening you, the person is getting violent, I am trying to do something. I am calling the police. I am calling for help. Hopefully, I have the balls to jump in. I don't know. I haven't been in that situation. But there is a difference between people calling you a name. I don't care if people calling you a name, because I don't care if people calling me a name. Now, I don't care if people want to beat you up or push you or want to steal from you, getting violent. Now, that's the problem. So I'm not saying about doing anything. I'm just saying that, what can I do? Like, well, so he calls you a name because you're black, and then I call him, yeah, you racist, and I'm so fucking white. Shut up, you fucking whore. You think you better, and then he's going to call me race traitor because he thinks, hey, I'm white too, and I'm standing for a black woman. It doesn't make sense. We're only going to put more negativity into it and have a bigger fight. You're a fucking idiot. You want to insult people? Go. I'm not thinking bad of you because someone calls you a name. I'm thinking bad about that motherfucker that calls you a name, but not about you. And again, and this I really agree with Mod, I'm not going, when someone insults you on the street, I'm not going to stand to defend you, because I think you're capable of that. It's the same situation, for example, and that's actually, I'm really grateful, when we used to go out and the guy would behave to me or say something I didn't like, and Mod did hear it, and thank God he never ever, not that I know, he never ever went to defend me. And I thank him for it, because he would piss me off. If I have a problem with what you said to me, I'm going to fucking say. Now, of course, no one ever physically attacked me, and I think if the huge guy would physically attack me, I know he would jump to defend me, but that's the other thing, and I'm not able to defend myself from from some huge dude, and then he's actually assaulting me, then he's actually getting physical with me, and that is the problem. But he never never ever tried to defend me when the guy was not violently, not physically, but basically saying things to provoke me, because it happened, for example, because I'm foreign in this country, because I'm Polish, or because the dude wanted to, I don't know, have sex with me or something, and he was saying all the things I didn't like. He never defended me, and that's how it's supposed to be, because I can stand. He assumed I can stand on my own. He assumed I can take it if it pisses me off too much. I can choose for myself, walk away, or say something back. And if you're going to be called a racial name, I'm going to assume you're not reacting because you don't want to react, not because you don't know how to react. And as soon as I'm going to assume, oh, a poor black woman, I have to defend her, I'm on that one with Maud. I'm showing my superiority. I assume that your lack of reaction comes from your incompetence. When I rather assume your lack of reaction comes because you can't, and you're not going to be bothered with a fucking idiots. But again, if the situation will be unsafe for you, like physical, yeah, that's the time to call the police. That's the time to interfere, call for help, do whatever the hell you can. So I'm not absolutely not saying, because how do you know in the end, when you walk on the street, yeah? And here is my question. When you walk on the street, and for example, I don't know, let's say you don't know me privately, but you know I'm Polish, right? Let's say. And you see me and you recognize me. And then some guy is screaming, oh, you fucking Polish whore, all Polish women are whores, and you are too. How do you know that I don't react just because I'm calm enough not to react and ignore the idiot? How do you know my lack of reaction comes from my confidence and competence? Why would you need to defend me?
Well, in that particular, now you're bringing it back to particular scenarios. Now, of course, in that particular scenario, it's important to just walk away and just allow that idiots being an idiot. But still, you're just bringing back to a specific, scenario. But my scenario was that there is a guy who is just, threatened to kill me. And of course, when people are like, hey, you're being a racist asshole, I had no problem with that, because it's kind of a lot like, it's about letting other people know that that is not morally acceptable in our society.
Yeah, but
that's
here is the
morally
thing.
wrong.
He knows he's racist because he wants you dead because of color of your skin. So me calling him racist, not going to have an impact on him. And it can be also different impact, because he can say, yeah, I'm a racist, because he's convinced that you shouldn't exist.
It's not about changing his mind. You are adding like, I'm not about changing his minds. Like even when I'm on Twitter or on YouTube, I haven't never really tried to change anybody's minds. But it's kind of like, it's kind of like it's much more for the third party listener, the bystander.
But if we don't try to change people's minds, we only keep fighting. And that's
but it's unrealistic. What if a person doesn't want to change?
You don't know that, and I would say with those extreme cases, well, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know.
Not everybody wants their mind changed. There are going to be fundamentalist Christians that don't want their minds changed. There are going to be, atheists that don't want their minds changed. If a person just doesn't want to change their mind, you can't make them change their mind. That's the way you don't try to change the person you're arguing with. Your arguments is not to change the person's mind.
Okay.
Your arguments is for the third party bystander.
And I agree. And within the third party bystander will be people who will be very far away from what this guy is saying, like disagreeing 100%. Will be also people who will agree with him 100%, and will be people somewhere in the middle, like more towards him or less towards him, but like, oh, they're not sure. And for those bystanders, I rather think about not just insulting him, but to put the argument why he's wrong, so I won't change his mind. But the bystanders have actually chance to hear a good argument against him, and those people who doubted if it's really, okay, I don't want her dead, but is it really that bothering that he said, is it really that bad? Those people who don't know any better but are like, I don't know, can, instead of just saying, oh, you are racist, asshole, can hear actually well-put argument, although I'm not saying that I always can have a well-put argument, but those people can read well-put argument and make up their minds. And there is a chance that some from this bystander will realize, no, what this guy is saying is really, we have to go away from that way of thinking, because instead of hearing, you are racist asshole, I'm going to block you and fuck you, you're going to say something really that hits with other people, that they will resonate with, that they will make them think, and they will think, okay, that's really wrong. And that's why it's more difficult, but I rather try to put an argument why people are wrong. For the bystanders, indeed. Because within those bystanders, there will not only be people who will disagree with this asshole, there will also be people who will agree with this asshole, and there will also certainly be people probably who aren't sure if that's really a problem, even though they don't want you dead, but they like not sure if he's such a bad dude, if his way of thinking is such an untrue way of thinking. And I have a chance to influence their mind. And why wouldn't I want to change their mind on that one?
No, but unfortunately, appeal to emotions works very effective on humans. I mean, unfortunately, we don't live in Neverland where people listen to the best arguments. There are people who make really amazing, excellent YouTube videos that are stuck at 1,000. And there are people who just make videos appealing to other people's emotions. They are up in the millions. Unfortunately, people are emotional creatures. So yes, a yelling, screaming attitude tends to be very effective, because when Sargon of Akkad says, social justice warriors are the enemy, they need to be stopped, we need to stop them, we need to rally together. Sure, he's getting people emotionally riled up, and
yeah,
it
but
works people listen to that.
Yeah, but those people are people who already agree with you. So, for example, if some racist asshole is threatening you, and we have that's how I see it. Maybe I see it wrong, but that's how I understand it. And we have people who will listen to argument on Twitter or whatever, right? And I was like, "You are a racist fucking asshole." People who actually will resonate with that emotion are the people who already agree with me. But people who disagree with me, people who agree with them, I will not convince them by that emotion. I only will piss them off, which is not going to give me a chance to change a mind of even of one of them, of make them think. Then people who are somewhere in the middle, they're not going to be that emotionally about it either, because the mob I will gather that will goes like, yeah, she's right, you are racist asshole, and fuck you indeed. Those will be the people who already agree. And that neither there are people who already agree, but actually we need to understand that we need to listen, respect, and talk to people who are also disagree with us, and even more. And when I understand that such an extremist, there is probably a lost cause that I want to change his mind, but those people around who might not really agree with me and lean to him might actually, there is a chance that even one of them might think, okay, maybe it's not such a good idea. It's like, it's the same example like Peterson is saying, for example, that he's getting letters from alt-right people, or people who started, from people who started to leaning alt-right. They weren't alt-right yet, but they started to lean, but they were listening to his lectures, and they decided it's not a good idea. I'm not going to go that road. No, I'm far from being able to put argument as well as Jordan Peterson. That's not what I'm saying. But I rather try to not gather mob that already agrees with me and tell you are a fucking asshole to a person who will you know, it doesn't do anything for him, I rather will respectfully put the argument why I disagree. So someone who isn't sure, who's leaning towards him but isn't sure, might think, there is a chance he think, okay, there's something in it. And by doing that, I do actually more than by just calling him a racist asshole. To me, talking from emotion and talking to him, you are a racist asshole, I do the easiest thing to do. And again, I'm not judging you because I'm talking from a bystander position, right? So what I can do when I see it's happening to you, for example, and I understand the situation is different when it's towards me, that the different emotions are in me, I understand that. But as from my position, I do more by assuming I be as respectful as I can be, even if my respect shows itself by only not insulting you, and then put well-thought arguments, and maybe someone will turn away from this way of thinking that I don't stay. And by that, I'm doing more. And it's not seen, that the problem is also like when you do that, and for example, one person or two persons, oh my God, it's late, I'm sorry, might think, yeah, okay, maybe going outright isn't the good idea. You probably won't see it. But if I call that person, shun that person, you are a fucking racist asshole, fuck off, you know, blah, 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 and I gather people who will basically agree with me because they already agree with me, and then they will also shout at him, we have the feeling that we did more because it's more visible. But again, those people already agreed with me. So actually, by having that invisible thing, like probably one person, there is a chance one person was thinking, okay, it's not a good idea to go over outright people. We don't see it as loud, but it's doing more, because then that person can actually become a better person. And if there is a chance that person would influence people around him, like he can have a friend who leaning outright as well, and he can say, you know what, I remember our conversations, but I changed my mind, and here's how I think about it now. And maybe he can change someone. So in fact, it's doing more.
Yeah, but a person would still have to be willing to have a conversation in the first place.
You never know that, but I think it's taking a chance. You never know that. I admit that. You never know who's listening.
If a person is yelling at you and screaming at you and telling you that they want you to die, they don't want to have a conversation with you. You could just look at the conversation, or quotes unquote conversation, between V and Mr. Medicare, where Medicare yelled at him the whole entire time, and then he just quits the live stream because he didn't really want a conversation. People who are yelling at you don't want a conversation with you.
That's true, but I'm not really, as we agreed it with each other, it's for the bystanders. I'm going to write something as respectfully as I can and as well thought as I can, not for this asshole who probably is so far in his thinking that he's not going to really care about what I'm saying, because either I'm saying well put argument or you are a fucking racist, he's not going to care. But for the people who are reading it and somewhere in between and are not sure and leaning maybe his way, there is the chance I'm having. It's like you give me a example a moment ago of V in the other guy stream. Okay, he didn't want to have a conversation, but I don't know if they had a conversation to some degree before one of them left, but you were listening it, and one of them tried to put, or hopefully both of them tried to put the arguments as well as they could, and in the end one of them didn't want to have a conversation, was yelling, as much as I understand, but one of them hopefully wanted to put argument as well as they could, and you were listening, and that can shape you, and that can say, no, I disagree with that, and I'm stronger now in my disagreement, or yeah, I'm agreeing with that, or it's a different perspective. So
Again,
really,
it all depends.
me putting well-thought argument is not for a person who's that far up his ass that you know that he wants you dead because of the color of his skin. He's lost cause probably, but as we agreed before, for the bystanders.
Yeah, and different situations are going to be handled differently. Like if a person is saying, I want to kill you, I'm not going to exactly say, hey, I want to talk to you. I want to have a great conversation with you. Because, I mean, if I saw that as a bystander, I would think that the person trying to talk would look stupid.
I don't care if people think that I'm stupid. And
Yeah,
then
I mean, I'm
again,
saying that, no, I'm saying that if I was the bystander and one person told another person they want them dead, and the other person is like, oh, yeah, but I want to have nothing but a fun conversation with you, I would think that the person wants to get conversation with a person that wants them dead is stupid.
But you can ask the question that would make other people think instead of calling him a name. And you making other people think, and maybe someone will realize, well, no, outright, that sort of approach is not a good idea. It's already something, is better. Of course, I understand we're not going to have a nice conversation, but we're not going to have a nice conversation, but I rather try to say, as a bystander, say something that's well put to make other people think and show it more intelligently, try to anyway. My husband is smiling when I say I would try to do something like that. No, I'm joking. Then call him a name, because if I just call him a name, then that's just that. But I can show it this, I can try to show it's not acceptable by actually saying something other than just insulting him. And if I also show to other people like I'm not an asshole, there is a more chance. Sometimes you have to be an asshole, okay, but when I don't go down that road, but try to have intelligent, well put something to say, then people might be more likely to want to listen to me.
Actually, people tend to listen more to the people like Sargon, and people like, Paul Joseph Watson. People who are like, SJWs are the enemy. They need to be stopped no matter what. They are monsters. People actually listen to that. I mean, sure, it's appeal to emotions. You're appealing with people's emotions, and you're making people more tribalistic. But people still enjoy listening to that type of rhetoric.
Yes, but Sargon of Akkad or Paul Joseph Watson have also a lot of arguments, and they put a lot of information, and they having a lot of arguments why they are against something, and in the end they say, yeah, it needs to be stopped. Yeah, they idiots. So that's the small nuance.
Yeah, I mean,
but people, Paul Joseph Watson don't make, or Sargon of Akkad don't make all these videos that having millions of views by just saying there's a justice warrior
who's been pilloried by the left for standing there.
John,
that was someone who was attacked.
John, one second. What I'm trying to say, that Paul Joseph Watson and Sargon of Akkad and like them, they're not getting millions of views just by insulting people. They're not just getting online, you're a fucking idiot and social justice warrior is useless, fuckwits. This is not all they do. Because if that would be all they do, then yeah, you know what? If you do it in a funny way, then maybe I watch 1, 2, maybe 10 of your videos, but I'm not going to follow you that for another year. Huh?
The point is, Modwain himself demonstrated our point that it is sometimes reasonable to point out to someone that they are being racist.
Yes, but my point.
Not attack. Not attack. In the start, there was an article, and the bloke very concisely tried to explain that he found it odd that he was both attacked by racists and by anti-racists.
Mm-hmm.
That he was attacked from both sides, and he thought that was unusual. I don't think it's anywhere near as unusual as he thinks. But the point was, he summed it up very concisely. And from that, it was extrapolated, I think inaccurately, that the attack was solely about him being a race traitor. No, he was just summarizing it in a sentence.
No, because when you listen, he got a death threat, so no one went what Maud is trying to say, and he didn't make your point, guys. I'm really sorry. He summoned someone as racist after having a long conversation with them and trying to see them to see things from other perspective. What I was talking now with Rin was that she said, if the guy is coming and at me and saying, you want me dead, you can say he's racist. This is not all I'm going to say, hopefully.
Yes.
Hopefully,
Quite.
I'm going first.
It's not all
and have the
anyone's
new
going
one.
to say. But sometimes you run. Because of your race, they're going to kill you. You run. You don't stand and have an argument.
Yeah, and then I'm not shouting back either. I'm running.
Well, it depends. If the standby is, that guy's a racist, he's trying to kill me, is a perfectly reasonable thing to shout.
No, he's trying to
Yes.
kill me. Help is more reasonable because it's shorter.
It sums up the situation in the most economical way.
But
sometimes just a few. We didn't say. Maud was saying that the two things were equivalent, and we were saying they're not equivalent because one is always bad and the other one is more nuanced.
Yeah, and me and Jen have been arguing for nuance because it seems like you guys are arguing from absolutes when we're saying that there's different nuance and different situations are going to call for different actions. You're not going to use the exact same action for each and every single last situation.
Be that as it may, because this is the second time I'm going to try to finish this conversation. Rin, do you want to make a new appointment to actually talk about the book?
Yeah, I guess we got to talk about the book some other time. I didn't know that this was going to happen.
Yeah, me neither. But it did. And in all fairness, we were still, or at least I was still talking about the book, but for a small bit, because we didn't really get further than the introduction.
Yeah, we just only read the first page, and that's it.
We should go on Honey Badger Radio. They do this.
Yeah, I don't think they'll have us, mate. I don't think.
No, I was making an analogy.
Oh, right, okay.
They do this where they take an article or a video and they spend an hour talking about one tiny offshoot point.
Yeah, well, it's okay that it goes there. I mean, I pride myself on not doing scripted stuff, and if this doesn't prove this wasn't scripted, then I don't know what does. Anyway, we've been busy for quite a while. I don't know how long you want to keep going.
I mean, we could end it here if you want.
I think poor Modwain wants to go to bed. It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
It seems that I'm going to stay awake because my wife is going to bed now, and our son is going to wake up in about 5 hours.
Now I can go.
No, I can't, because if I wake up, then I can't sleep, and I do have to work. So I'd rather sleep before work than. So yeah, I think I enjoyed the talk, and I didn't enjoy the rambling as much, but fair enough. Shit happens. But we have been busy for quite a while, and I'm not really sure. There are things we agree on, there are things we disagree on, and I'm not sure that we're going to get closer like this.
Yeah, it just seems like we're going around in circles and that we just don't agree with each other on this issue. Which
is perfectly fine.
It's fine.
We've been hanging on it a little bit too long, in my humble opinion.
Okay, we could end it here.
Well, we could, end it on a slightly more friendly note. I mean, I'm not saying to chop off the conversation right here and now. I mean, it's not that I don't want people to talk, but maybe about something lighter.
It kind of ground to a halt, having run out of fuel.
Yeah, but I did enjoy it, and if I at some point sound angry or something, now I'm just passionate and I'm really not angry or anything, and I really did enjoy it. So I hope you guys enjoy it as well.
Yeah, it's
Oh
nice to
yeah,
hear
it
you
was
speak.
enjoyable. I enjoyed myself.
It's nice to hear you speak so much, Sam, because normally you pop on a stream and you say 5 things and then you disappear again.
Because it's not Modwain stream and I'm allowed to speak. No, I'm joking. It's, I'm less tired today than I usually am.
Good.
So that's the thing. That's the reason. I'm less tired. I'm less sleepy than I usually am. But yeah. Anyway, thank you for having me, and I did enjoy it.
No problem. So I guess it's over. Do you want to do final thoughts or whatnot? Is there people want to do final thoughts?
I'm good.
John, you want to go first or should I go first?
No, you go ahead, mate. You go ahead.
Well, I don't want to do a final thought because I prefer to have more after this one.
Well, we could, if both of you or if all of you want to keep going, we could find another thing to talk about.
No, he means he doesn't want to die yet.
A final thought ends. If it's your final thought, you will have no more thoughts.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, if you want to keep the live stream going on, then we could, go for an extra 30 minutes if you want.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Either way, that's okay. But yeah, no, it was a heated discussion about whether something is or is not. So let's not go there again. But it was interesting because, and this is why I like the live streams we normally have on my channel as well. It's interesting to disagree with each other. Now we often seem to be eye to eye, and I think on this we're not that far apart either. But discussion is good because it keeps us sharp. It keeps us able to think about what we do and do not believe. So as such, I'm glad that we had this little spat.
Yeah, this was a very fun, interesting conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So that was your final thought, Modwain?
Yeah. Oh, and go check my channel because I'm a brilliant YouTube filmmaker. But yeah, no, go check my stuff. I'm curious what you think.
And okay, Sean, what's your final thought?
Well, let's just say I've been introduced to a whole new train of thought about the whole subject of racism that I had never thought of before, and it will cause me some pondering and the exercising of grey cells, if I have any left. And yes,
Go on about your train of thoughts. I want to hear about your new train of thought.
Sorry?
Oh, go on about your new train of thought.
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting line of argument from young Modwain.
The young whippersnapper.
Look, when you're as old as I am, you get to call everyone young on the internet.
I agree.
Yeah, because
you are very old, so
I am.
What was your new line of thought, Sean?
Well, no, I mean, at the end, I was just agreeing with everything Sam said, but the problem is that it wasn't really arguing to the point I have been trying to make, and therefore, it's like, fine.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with Son too. I just don't agree with, absolutes like this is how, because Son got very specific on very specific scenarios that I would probably never ever see. Like I have never seen one man chase another man down before. I have never seen, and I've never walked up and gave a person doing the chasing a handshake,
No, it wasn't chasing, by the way, because they were going on they were passing each other from what I understood, and they couldn't be chasing because the street was very crowded. But it was like I go one direction and and then you the other direction, and we close enough, and I think you said something about me, and then I basically viciously attack you and punch you in the face. That was something like that. And then the people would be around you, and I would still try to look for you, like to get to, because I wasn't done yet. I didn't do enough harm to you. But I'm glad we actually agree with what we said. It's like brilliant. We had that heated discussion when we think we disagree, and we ending up the stream with saying, well, we agree with each other.
A healthy argument.
No, but
Well,
this
you
is
know, when I'm on like Modwain's, live streams, we normally agree a lot,
Yeah.
It's very rare that we disagree, but we do disagree on this scenario.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though, that there was a lot of, like, I think we somewhere misunderstood each other, and I'm also probably I'm largely to blame, because when you were saying certain things, I'm like, yes, that's what I mean. Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. But okay, I really enjoyed myself. So
Well, that's good. You see, this whole topic of racism gets me very puzzled, because there was been some talk in the British sports media about the problem of racism in football. That's soccer to you Americans. And here's the problem. Let's suppose you have 50,000 people in a stadium watching a match, and one person calls something horrible out. Is that endemic racism, or it only takes one idiot?
yeah, exactly.
And this is the problem, is people talk about these things and it's never quantified. And I think, well, I go through my life with, there isn't a day go by when I go outside and there isn't at least one interracial couple with mixed race kids, and no one's batting an eyelid. And it's been like that for decades here.
Because there is a small, the way I see it, there is a small, and I'm going in a moment really, there is a small amount of people who are really racist, and I would say some of them are outright, but we are being making believe that there is a way more racism than there is. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm only saying that there is outright that are extreme racist, and there is some racism within the rest of society, but we are being made believe that there is way more than we are. Because the other thing is, I can be on that stadium and hearing someone scream something racial. Also, me ignoring it. It's not only ignoring it because I don't care. It's also ignoring it because I don't want to give it any more power. You try to get the attention. Try to get my like there was a guy the same. Like there was a guy popping up on the stream, trying to provoking. He called a name. He said something. He tried to provoke. I didn't react to him at all. I was like, he wants to have a reaction. I'm not going to give it to him. He's there clearly to stir up some drama, to have a reaction, to have a conversation in the chat about something else, so the people will pay less attention to what we actually say. I'm not going to react to him and give him that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only reason, because I think if we would respond to him in the chat, we would be distracted from the conversation, and people who would listen would be distracted from our arguments, and it could take completely different turn. I'm like, some idiots right now, he's making an idiot out of himself. If he wants to confront Rin on something, I don't know what that is. Guess what? She probably has a Twitter. he can make a comment under the specific video he tries to talk about it now. He can maybe email her. I don't know. I never try. I'm subscribed to you, but I never tried. He can do those things. But let's see. For example, how often you see like a flood in America, like something happened, and people are helping each other. And the black dude is carrying white woman out of the car that is getting out of the water, and the white woman is holding a black baby. You know, to help the mother who has three other kids, and and people are coming together. So there is way less racism, I suspect, than we think. But with that being said, I'm really sorry. I don't want to be an asshole. I really have to go to catch some sleep.
Oh, no problem. You've been here for about 3 hours, so I can imagine that you would feel very tired. And you've been coughing a lot, so I imagine you have the cold.
No, I had a, how you pronounce it in English? Bronchitis?
Bronchitis?
Yeah, and it's almost over, but, well, it's almost over. Anyway, thanks a lot for having me, and see you next time, and have a great time going further.
Yeah, you're welcome to come on again.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we've already did final words. So, is it okay? Did I end it here, or do people have additional things that they would like to say? I don't want to end it too fast, and people are like, no, I want to say this, So,
Just thank you.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you all for listening.
and I think Ben is watching. I know that we've been going for hours, so but I do want to give chats some time to say what they want, because we've been so busy arguing with each other. I haven't really been paying attention to the chats.
Not sure if there's anyone left in the chat, to be honest.
Yeah, if anybody on chat was to talk to us, but it seems like everybody on chat's left, and I mean, I'm not surprised because I
Yeah,
think
it's been a
we
while.
are only getting 3 views right now, and one of those views are me. And if you two are looking at chat, then
Yeah.
we are probably the 3 views. So it's sad that I didn't get the chance to interact with chats as much as I would like. I'm sorry about that, guys. But I guess I would read Ben's message aloud. Depends if the person is amenable to reason. Also, your own position. Always not calling somebody an arsehole when you really feel that you need to, and it deserves to build up the tension. And I'll just read one more by Daisy Pumpkin. Sometimes you have to protect your own sanity and sense of self. Sometimes it's wiser to back off. So I think that they're arguing from a place of nuance. So I guess we'll just end it here. And I'm sorry that I got so caught up in the argument that I've ignored chats. But I thank you guys for watching, and I would like to thank Modwain, John, and Son for attending. I would like to thank Ben. I would like to thank Daisy Pumpkin. I would like to thank Raven, Real Raven, and Toxic Thread for participating in the chats. I'm glad that you all came. Bye bye, everyone. Farewell.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.